Chapter 39-23. Yeah, I told you to shoot and kill you. What? You can't bear to do it? When a woman was angry, she could explode at any time. Gao Ran was very nice to her and rarely talked to her so loudly. So when she saw her husband lose control of his emotions, Zhu Lingling felt wronged. Gao Ran was even angrier after hearing this. He was so angry that he put one hand on his waist and didn't know what to say. He bit his lower lip tightly and felt his whole body tremble with anger. Dad, Mom, stop arguing, okay? Gao Buyuan was lying in the bedroom and watching cartoons. Hearing the argument in the living room, he hurried over to calm them down. Gao Ran, have you been bewitched by that vixen? Now you think I'm bad in every way. You feel wrong because I told you to transfer her away, right? You can't explain it to your little lover, right? Zhu Lingling, I really have to hand it to you for saying such things. He called Zhu Lingling by her full name, which made her even angrier. Son, let's go. Let him miss his little lover at home. Zhu Lingling took Gao Buyuan's hand and walked out. It's so late. Where are you going? Although he was angry, he still cared about the safety of his wife and child. I'm taking Buyuan to see my ex-boyfriend. Maybe to make Gao Ran angry, Zhu Lingling yelled. Gao Ran was so angry that he let go of her hand. Then Zhu Lingling carried her son out of the door. Gao Ran fell onto the sofa and felt his head buzzing. He had been working in the city bureau for several years. Although he had a good reputation, it was inevitable that some people would be jealous of him. So this incident happened to be a trigger. After the higher-ups asked, they didn't think it was Gao Ran's fault but slander. But a basin of dirty water splashed on him couldn't be unaffected at all. Plus, he had been under a lot of pressure recently. Gao Ran felt like he was about to collapse. 10 minutes later, he calmed down and picked up his phone to call Zhu Lingling. His phone was turned off. He had no choice but to call his in-laws and ask them to leave the door open for Lingling and Buyuan. Then Gao Ran called Qin Chu and asked Qin Chu to have a drink with her. Zhu Lingling drove home with Buyuan. She planned to go back to her mother's home. Later on, he thought that the old man would be worried if he went back, so he simply drove to South Hill Manor. She moved into Huamin's house with her child. Huamin and the twins were naturally very happy and welcomed the mother and son to stay the night. Little Bean in particular was very happy. She was originally sleepy, but now she was awake again. She took Buyuan to her toy room and showed him many new toys. Zhu Lingling complained to Huamin and cursed Gao Ran for being a bastard. First Hospital Su Xiaoxiao wrung out a towel with hot water and handed it to Han Yueyao. Come on. Wipe your face and go to bed. Xiaoxiao, I'll be discharged tomorrow. You don't have to stay here with me. Thank you for your hard work these days. I'll leave tomorrow morning. Tonight is the last night before I leave. So soon? It's not so soon. I've been delayed for several days. It's all my fault. Han Yueyao felt guilty. Oh, you made me slack off for several days. Xiaoxiao, remember to keep in touch with me when you go to the northwest. Han Yueyao reached out and placed her hand on Su Xiaoxiao's soft and tender hand. Don't worry. I'll keep an eye on you. When you become a big star, I'll boast to my comrades in the army that the popular star Han Yueyao is my bestie. Xiaoxiao, are you sure you won't say goodbye to Lin Hang? Han Yueyao knew Su Xiaoxiao cared about the mechanic most in this city. Chapter 39-24. I won't tell him. I won't let him know. When Su Xiaoxiao was stubborn, she wouldn't change her mind. Xiaoxiao, I'll remember how good you are to me. Han Yueyao was a bit sad. Don't say that. It's a tear gas bomb. Don't play this trick on me. I hate crying. Cheer me up. Okay. The next morning, when Han Yueyao was discharged from the hospital, her agent and assistant came to pick her up. Su Xiaoxiao left the hospital at 5 a.m. She left on a 7 a.m. plane. She left in a low-key manner and few people in the company knew about it. After leaving the hospital, Han Yueyao returned to her dorm room. Looking at the empty room, she felt bad. She sent a WeChat message to Su Xiaoxiao. Xiaoxiao, have a safe trip. Thank you for having you in my life. Less than a minute after she sent the message, she received a reply. She immediately picked it up, thinking it was from Su Xiaoxiao, but to her surprise it was from Yuan Bo. I just went to the hospital to see you. They said you were discharged. Yeah. Damn it. Why didn't you tell me you were discharged? I came here for nothing. Do you need something? Of course. I'm visiting a patient. How are you? I'm much better. Are you okay with this week's competition? No problem. Okay. Take a rest today. Tomorrow we'll rehearse this week's dance. Okay. After chatting with this guy on WeChat, Han Yueyao lay in bed to relax. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Han Yueao stood up and opened the door slowly. To her surprise it was and was Su Yu's assistant. The whole world knew this. Han Yueao immediately glanced behind him, thinking Su Yu was here. President Su isn't here. It's just me. I'm alone, and explained, seeing Han Yueao's thoughts. Oh. Han Yueao looked embarrassed. President Su asked me to buy these for you, and handed her several big bags of food. Han Yueao took them. Okay. Thank President Su for me. President Su said you can call him if you need anything. You should take good care of yourself. Okay. And, about Xiao Xiao going to the army? I won't tell anyone, Han Yueao said immediately. Alright, that's settled then. After and left, Han Yueao brought the box in and opened it. One of the bags was filled with fruits. They were all exquisite fruits. There was a bag of some new daily necessities. There was also a bag with some Digio and anti-inflammatory medicine. It seemed that the preparation was quite complete. Tossing and turning in bed, she couldn't fall asleep. Finally, she sent a WeChat message to Su Yu. President Su, I've received everything. And has sent it over. Thank you. Unexpectedly, Su Yu did not reply to her. She didn't see Su Yu for the past few days. It was Su Yu who visited her on her first day in the hospital. Thinking about it, a person like Su Yu was extremely busy. Why would he think of visiting her? At this thought, she felt sad and fell asleep on the bed. When she woke up again, she was woken up by the ringing of her phone. Hello. She picked up the phone in a daze. Han Yueao, come to the Lego nightclub. It was Su Yu's voice. Huh? No. Yeah. I'll ask him to pick you up. Get dressed and wait for me. Su Yu knew that she couldn't walk properly, so he asked him to pick her up. Okay. Han Yueao was still wondering why Su Yu asked her, a patient, to go to the nightclub at such a late hour. When she arrived, she seemed to understand Su Yu's intention. Han Yueao pushed the door open. It was noisy inside and no one noticed her, and led her to Su Yu's side. Su Yu seemed to be drinking with a famous director. President Su, Miss Han is here. Chapter 39-25. Come here. Su Yu beckoned her to sit beside him. In the washroom of the private room, Ding Lan, the female star, put her arms around the director's neck. Director Sun, why hasn't my role been announced yet? I heard the other actors are about to join the cast. How come I didn't receive the notice? Lan, to tell you the truth, you might not be able to join the cast. Why? You promised me. Ding Lan was furious but knew she couldn't offend the director, so she continued to act coquettishly. Then she used her thighs to rub against some of the director's sensitive areas. Her actions were very familiar. I just found a replacement for your role. Forget about this movie. I'll save a role for you in the next movie, okay? How can you do that? You promised me. Ding Lan was a little anxious. She had used a lot of her connections for this movie. She had slept with 3 men. From the director to the producer to one of the investors. It wasn't easy for her to get the role of the second female lead. She didn't expect that she would be eliminated just like that. What was all the effort she had put in? There's nothing we can do about it. Director Sun, don't you love Lan the most? Why did you do that? I'll be sad. You know I love this movie. Ding Lan didn't dare to offend him directly and had to pretend to be pitiful to win his sympathy. Lan, to tell you the truth, I do want you to join the cast. But, the investor asked me to replace you. I can't do anything about it. He's the god of wealth and uses real money. The investor? That barbarian Luo? Ding Lan remembered that the old pervert had promised her that he would give her a role when they had slept together. No. Boss Luo is only a small shareholder. The biggest investor asked for it. Who's the biggest investor? Ding Lan asked immediately. Imperial Star Entertainment. Imperial Star Entertainment? Su Yu? Ding Lan finally realized who he was. Lan, we're familiar with each other and aren't strangers. Let me ask you, have you offended President Su recently? Ding Lan was about to say that she didn't offend Han Yueao, but then she remembered the rumors between Han Yueao and Su Yu, so she didn't know what to say. Lan, let me give you a piece of advice. You can't afford to offend Su Yu. If you offend him, apologize as soon as possible. Otherwise, your future as a star may be difficult. Director Sun tried his best to persuade him. I understand, thank you, Director Sunday. Although Ding Lan was furious, she didn't dare to do anything. She had thought that it was just a rumor. To his surprise, Han Yueao's backer was really Su Yu. She had only accidentally stepped on Han Yueao's foot, but Su Yu had interfered in the matter of replacing her in the new movie. Ding Lan didn't expect that. Not many bosses were willing to do that for their mistresses. Could it be that Han Yueyao was really Su Yu's favorite? Ding Lan touched up her makeup in the bathroom. When she came out, she poured herself a glass of wine and walked over to Su Yu. Hello, President Su. Do you remember me? You are. Su Yu looked up and pretended not to know her. I'm Lan Lan. Which Lan Lan? The one from Tianhe Entertainment? Ding Lan smiled awkwardly. No. Lan Lan from Dancing Allure. I'm sorry. I didn't watch Dancing Allure. Su Yu looked at her and answered calmly. Everyone in the room fell silent. Young Master Su was about to flip out. Chapter 39-26. Ding Lan looked even more embarrassed. She couldn't even maintain her smile. Oh, I see. I thought President Su would pay attention to the actresses of President Su's show. I'm busy and don't have much time. What? Do you want to talk to me about something? Su Yu wanted to embarrass her. President Su, I don't know what I did wrong to offend you, but I hope you'll forgive me. I'll be eternally grateful if you give me, a B-list actress, a chance to live. To express my apology, I'll drink first. Ding Lan raised the knife in her hand in front of everyone and finished it in one gulp. Director Sun felt sorry for the woman who had slept with him. After all, they had been intimate. So he took the lead in applauding and cheering. Lan Lan, you're a good drinker. You're a heroine. President Su will show you respect. Then, everyone followed suit and applauded. Ding Lan had been in the entertainment industry for a few years and had some influence. Seeing the others trying to smooth things over for her, Su Yu said slowly, Miss Lan Lan, I think you're mistaken. You didn't offend me, you offended my employee. So, it's useless for you to apologize to me. You should beg my employee to forgive you. After all, she was almost eliminated because of you. Su Yu's words were so clear that everyone knew what was going on. Han Yueyao was nervous. Although she didn't like Ding Lan, she didn't expect to embarrass her in front of so many people. She was alarmed. Su Yu reached out and placed his hand on hers, giving her courage. Ding Lan was, after all, a famous actress. She couldn't bring herself to apologize to Han Yueyao. But at the thought that if she didn't apologize to Han Yueyao, she might miss the opportunity to play the supporting actress in a big movie with a commission of 6 million yuan, her heart ached. After much consideration, she decided to apologize. With a smile, she poured herself another glass of wine and looked at Han Yueyao. Little sister Yao Yao, it was my fault. Please forgive me. Then Ding Lan downed another glass of wine. She was about to take the wine glass when Su Yu stopped her. Yao Yao, what did I tell you before? Han Yueyao froze. Su Yu continued, remember what it means to give someone a taste of their own medicine. Whatever grievances you've suffered, make them pay back in double. If I remember correctly, Miss Lan Lan accidentally stepped on your foot, didn't she? Do you want to step on it twice? President Su, that's enough. Give me some face. Lan Lan really doesn't have it easy. Director Sun couldn't stand it anymore and felt bad for his lover. Su Yu raised his head and glanced at the man. Give you face? Who do you think you are? Su Yu's words made the director's face turn ugly. At this moment, no one in the room dared to make a sound. The young master of the Su family was furious. Even if the municipal party secretary was here, he wouldn't give face to the director. Seeing the situation was difficult to resolve, Ding Lan walked over and lowered her head to look at Han Yueyao. Then little sister Yao Yao, can you kick me twice? Gritting her teeth, Han Yueyao knew Su Yu would stand up for her today. If she continued to pretend to be a saint, she wouldn't appreciate his kindness. Without another word, she gritted her teeth and stomped on Ding Lan's feet. Ding Lan's face was livid. Then she swallowed her anger and said, President Su, is this okay? Go ahead and ask. As long as Yao Yao forgives you, that's enough. Ding Lan looked at Han Yueyao with complicated emotions. Little sister Yao Yao, is this okay? Have you vented your anger? Chapter 39-27. It's okay. Sister, you'd better be careful. You stepped on me today. I'm just a newbie. If I step on a woman who's a movie queen, my career as an actress will be over, right? Yeah, sister, you're right. Ding Lan forced a smile. Then Su Yu stood up slowly and brushed the cigarette ash off his shirt. I, Su Yu, have two obvious traits. First, I'm rich. Second, I'm very protective of my people. Anyone who bullies my people will have a bad ending. Today's incident ends here. I don't want others to know about it. Of course, I don't want anyone to use this opportunity to create hype. If someone takes a video secretly, they'll be doomed. These last words could be considered a threat, and they had the effect of deterring them. Then Su Yu took Han Yueyao's arm and walked out. Lord Su, take care. Take care, President Su. The people in the room held their breaths and didn't calm down until Suyu left. After Suyu left, Ding Lan buried her face in her hands and cried on the sofa. She felt that she had really embarrassed herself today. Lan, don't cry. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Suyu, he's too much. Ding Lan cursed in tears. You can't help it. Suyu has always been like this. You've learned your lesson. Stay away from him. The others comforted Ding Lan. Walking out, Han Yueao still felt like she was floating. How did you feel? Suyu released her arm and asked with a smile. Great. Very great, Han Yueao told the truth. Silly. You hesitated when I asked you to step on her? I've never done that before. If I had known, I would have stepped harder and stomped her to death. Ah. Okay. Now that you've vented your anger and established your dominance, I guess no one will dare to bully you in dancing allure or when you take jobs. Thank you for standing up for me, President Su. Han Yueao felt warm in her heart. Ever since she was young, she had never liked to cause trouble. Everything was settled by herself. The feeling of being protected by someone for the first time was really very, very warm. Her feelings for Suyu had deepened. Of course, she only kept these in her heart. Suyu didn't know. Does your leg still hurt? It doesn't hurt anymore. How's the live stream this week? Of course. If you don't believe me, I can run a lap for you. In a good mood, she pretended to run. Suyu waved his hand, gesturing for her to stop. All right. Don't be a tiger. You've just recovered from your injury, why are you running away? You're pretty much done for this week's live broadcast. Even if you're eliminated, it doesn't matter. I've already spoken to the production team and asked them to assign you a less difficult dance. Isn't that fooling people? Then do you want to fool people or cripple your leg? So you asked her. I don't want to fool people, but I don't want to be crippled. In your dreams? All right, the competition's over. You've shown your face and gained popularity. Everyone knows you now. We don't have to go too far. Suyu didn't have high expectations for Han Yueao since she was just a newcomer. President Su, did I disappoint you? I'm not a good actress, right? Hearing Suyu's words, Han Yueao was a bit disappointed. She thought it was because she wasn't good enough that President Su didn't have high expectations for her. Suyu was slightly surprised at first. Then he tilted his head and glanced at her. Sighing, he said, over the years there have been many talents in Imperial Star. Han Yueao, you're indeed not the most hard-working and best actress. But for me you're good enough. Han Yueao found at this moment, Suyu was neither a boss nor a friend. Instead, he was more like a big brother next door, approachable and approachable. Standing on tiptoe, she couldn't help but lean over and kiss him. Yes, this was a crazy idea. Chapter 39-28. For the first time in her life, Han Yueao wanted to do something brave. The moment she stood on tiptoe to kiss Suyu, Anne's voice came from not far away and interrupted her mercilessly. Suyu didn't pay attention to her at all. Hearing Anne's voice, he walked to the other side. Han Yueao stood there alone, feeling awkward. President Su, there's a problem with our car. And wasn't an alarmist. After working for Suyu for many years, Suyu knew him well. What's wrong? I'll tell you when I get back. Anyway, we can't drive the car today. How about you take a taxi and send Miss Han home? I'll call the company and ask the driver to work overtime to pick you up? Suyu looked down at his watch. Forget it. Why bother them at this hour? I'll take a taxi home. What about you? I'll call the forest shop and ask them to tow the car away, and said. Okay, that's it. With that, Suyu strode back and hailed a taxi. Let's go. I'll drive you home first. President Su, I'm fine. I can do it myself. Han Yueao thought she was quite a tough woman. Don't waste time. Let's go. It's cold here. Without a word, Suyu opened the car door and stuffed Han Yueao into the car. Then he sat in the passenger seat. Imperial Star's employee dormitory. He had said such a thing. Okay. The driver was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had thin hair and was fat, but he looked kind. Are you the big boss of Imperial Star? After driving for a few minutes, the driver glanced at Suyu frequently and found him familiar. Then he finally remembered him. Yeah. Suyu didn't bother to say more. Oh my gosh. Is really you? Didn't you say you're rich? Not bad. Suyu didn't know if he was being modest or showing off. Han Yueao chuckled behind him. Suyu rolled his eyes at her through the rearview mirror. Oh my god, my daughter likes you so much. President Su, she said you're handsome and wants to quit school. She said she wants to go to your company to interview for a trainee. This kid. How old is your daughter? Suyu was curious. After my birthday this year I'll be 12. Suyu? Ha ha ha. Han Yueao couldn't help but laugh wildly, not caring about her ladle-like image. Is it funny? Suyu turned around and glared at her. It's so funny. President Su, I didn't know you were so popular. Han Yueao chuckled. Suyu was speechless. Then the driver continued to lament, Big brother, let me tell you, being rich doesn't necessarily mean happiness, right? Many rich people have a lot of bank loans. They are under a lot of pressure all day. They are not as happy as us driving a taxi. I am satisfied as long as I can earn 200 or 300 yuan a day. There's nothing wrong with what you said. Suyu chatted with him casually. At this moment, the driver looked at Han Yueao behind him. This girl is very pretty. She's an actress in your company, right? Suyu nodded vaguely. You're so lucky. You have all kinds of actresses and can pick any one of them. But you have to take care of your body. You're young and overworked. You'll know when you're my age. Men with weak kidneys can't take care of themselves. So you have to take it easy. Hearing this, Suyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Han Yueao blushed awkwardly. They weren't in kindergarten anymore and naturally understood what he meant. Hey, are you a taxi driver or a paparazzi? You're so old and you're so gossipy. Suyu finally couldn't help but question the driver. Chapter 39-29. Time passed quickly when they met a funny taxi driver. After Suyu walked Han Yueao to the dorm, he didn't bother to get out of the car. Instead, he took a taxi back to his mansion. When he arrived at the mansion and came back soon, then he had a complicated expression on his face. What happened to the car? What did the people at the 4S store say? Suyu sat on the sofa and watched the financial news on his cell phone as he asked. The car was tampered with. Hearing this, Suyu slowly looked up. Seeing that it didn't look like he was joking at all, he realized that this matter might be serious. Was it tampered with? In all these years, Suyu had never encountered such a thing, not even once. And nodded. Yeah, the brakes didn't work. You didn't drive it. How did you find out? Suyu was puzzled. When I went to the underground parking lot to get my car, I happened to see a shadow in black flashing past. It was very suspicious. Also, after you asked me to investigate the car accident last time, I was very careful with my movements, so I checked the car before I started driving. In the end, I found that the brakes had been tampered with. Did you drop the surveillance footage from the nightclub? There should be surveillance cameras in the underground parking lot. Yes. Just as I thought, someone erased the footage. Hee. That's interesting. Suyu chuckled. President Su, from now on we must be more careful. I have a feeling that this enemy is getting closer and closer. I know. Doesn't he want to kill me? I'd like to see who dies first. Ever since the car accident last time, Suyu knew that someone was deliberately targeting him. That was why he felt guilty for implicating the innocent Han Yueao and treated her better than before. However, after that incident, and had been investigating but found nothing. Those people were very good at hiding in the dark. After a period of peace, Suyu would be fine in the future. Who would have thought that this would happen again today? The car that had been tampered with was bought by Suyu. After the car accident last time, Suyu's black Lamborghini 6th Element was smashed beyond recognition, and he was heartbroken. That was his favorite car. Later, everyone thought that he would buy an identical one. He was just as stubborn as Huamin. He kept switching to Audi R8. But Suyu didn't. Later on, he continued to buy many sports cars. His company also had many cars, business cars, Bentley, Land Rover, BMW, and so on. The car that was involved in the accident today was an orange-yellow Ferrari. It was the car that Suyu had been driving recently, and it was one of the more frequently seen models. Fortunately, Shaoan discovered it in time. Otherwise, the consequences would really be unpredictable. Of course, Suyu didn't want to encounter another car accident. The feeling of life and death was not good. President Su, there's something else. I don't know if I should tell you. Seeing that his boss was lost in thought, and hesitated for a moment before continuing. Whether you should tell me or not, aren't you going to tell me? Suyu looked down at his phone. Today, when I called out to you at the nightclub, Miss Han seemed to want to kiss you. Suyu, don't fucking talk nonsense. Suyu was naturally embarrassed, so he could only scold and, I'm not talking nonsense. It's true. If I didn't call out to you, maybe Miss Han would have kissed you. Suyu licked his lips. His expression was inscrutable, but he didn't speak. President Su, I feel that Miss Han might really like you, and analyzed. Chapter 39-30. Okay. Stop spreading rumors. Hurry up and order takeout. I'm hungry. Suyu didn't want to talk about the things between men and women, so he immediately changed the topic. Are you addicted to takeout? Of course. Do you want to cook? Suyu raised his eyebrows. Then, let's order takeout. And didn't dare to say anything. After all, he wasn't a woman and couldn't cook every day. After all, the boss hired assistants and bodyguards, not cooks, right? On the other side, Qin Chu and Gao Ran were drinking in a German-style beer garden. The two of them sat quietly in the private room. There was a foreign singer singing below. Did you fight with your wife again? Mr. Qin asked first. How did you know? Are you a half-immortal? Gao Ran was astonished. Because you have nothing to be depressed about except fighting with your wife. Gao Ran? Qin Chu knew Gao Ran better than he knew himself. Gao Ran was a workaholic. Maybe because of his father's influence, he was obsessed with his job as a police officer. No matter how busy, tired, and stressed he was, Gao Ran could handle it. But when it came to relationships, he didn't know what to do. Maybe men's minds were always different from women's. Gao Ran thought he had transferred Chen Yuning away. Although there would be trouble in the future, he didn't do anything wrong. However, he did have a clear conscience. Not only did Zhu Lingling not comfort him, she even scolded him. He felt so wronged. Sometimes I really don't understand what Lingling is thinking. If you could understand women, you'd be a philosopher, Qin Chu said calmly. It's a good thing that my family has lived a simple life for the past few years. If I switched places with you, Lingling would have forced me to my death. Speaking of which, Huamian is a good person. She's open-minded and can trust you at all times. She'll face all difficulties with you. So she's my destined wife. Speaking of Huamin, Qin Chu was full of pride. It was as if his wife was the best woman in the world. Does that mean that Lingling isn't the one I'm destined to be with? Gao Ran was stunned. So, do you want to try getting a divorce? Qin Chu said with a faint smile. Screw you, don't try to fool me. I don't have the guts to get a divorce. If I do, Lingling will never forgive me. So, if you love her, you should try to accept everything. Women are always insecure, especially when there's an enemy who's better than them. You can't blame her for overthinking. I don't think Chen Yuning is outstanding. She looks average, Gao Ran said honestly. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You only have eyes for your wife. There's nothing wrong with that. We were planning to have a second child. In recent years, the government's policy has been good, allowing women to have a second child. But in fact, after Buyuan was born, Lingling has been in poor health. She's very weak and has been sick all the time. My heart aches for her. Okay. Go to my house and pick her up. It's not a big deal. Don't make trouble for her. Qin Chu seldom tried to persuade Gao Ran, but he could tell that Gao Ran was really depressed. Okay. I'll go with you. After chatting with Qin Chu for a while, Gao Ran felt much better. Then he drove to South Hill Manor with Qin Chu. Seeing Gao Ran come in, Huamin immediately said to Zhu Lingling, who was applying a facial mask in the living room, Hey woman, your man is here to pick you up. Tell him to get out. Zhu Lingling was still angry. Embarrassed, Gao Ran didn't speak and walked toward his son. Let's go, son. Come home with dad. Gao Buyuan glanced at his father and said calmly, Take your wife home. I want to stay at Auntie Huamin's house for the night. Chapter 39-31. Son, what did you say? Gao Ran thought he was hallucinating. Your son said he doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay the night, Qin Chu repeated to Gao Ran mercilessly. What? Son. Gao Ran looked hurt. Do you still need to ask? You don't understand your son's feelings after such a big thing. I think you've lived in vain. Zhu Lingling couldn't help but stand up. I. Gao Ran didn't know what to say. At this moment, Little Bean glanced at Gao Ran and said, Uncle Gao Ran, let Buyuan stay. You and Auntie Lingling can go home first. My dad will take Buyuan home safely tomorrow. Don't worry. Good. Son, you're really something. You even have someone to plead for you. Wow. Gao Ran didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Honey, let's go home. Gao Ran glanced at Zhu Lingling. No. You can go home by yourself. Our son is staying for his future wife. Why are you staying? As a mother-in-law, how can you stay at your daughter-in-law's house? You don't know how to behave yourself. Gao Ran laughed. Get out. You're the one who doesn't know how to behave yourself. Okay, comrade Zhu Lingling, you've argued and made a scene. Go home. Don't disturb our family. Huamin pushed Zhu Lingling toward the door. Hey Mian, you're so heartless. You won't even let me stay for one night? It's not that I won't let you stay. I'm just afraid you'll break down. Huamin glanced at Gao Ran. Let's go, honey. Don't make a scene. Gao Ran didn't want to coax his wife in front of everyone, so he held Zhu Lingling's hand shyly. The couple walked out. Boyun, you really don't want to go home with us? Before leaving, Zhu Lingling glanced at her son worriedly. Goodbye, Mom. Gao Boyun didn't even raise his head. He waved his hand perfunctorily, which made everyone laugh. Zhu Lingling, the couple proved an old saying in China. Fight at the head of the bed, make up at the foot of the bed. After they leave, Qin Chu and Huamian go back to their bedroom. The kids play downstairs. Are you tired? I'll get you some water to soak your feet. 2. Then Qin Chu helped Huamin to sit on the bed. She was already very heavy. He only felt that there was a weight of a few dozen kilograms on his stomach, and it felt like he was about to fall. Qin Chu carefully took off Huamin's pure white cotton socks. Then he reached out and flicked the back of her foot gently. Why is it swollen? Does it hurt? It's like this in the 3rd trimester. It's not a big problem. It doesn't hurt. It was the same when I was pregnant with Pudding and Little Bean. Huamin said it unintentionally, but he regretted it as soon as he said it. Because she had just realized that during that period of time, Qin Chu had not been able to participate in it. I'm sorry, honey. Why are you apologizing, idiot? I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, I don't blame myself anymore because I'm slowly making up for the time I've missed. After that, Qin Chu carefully put the socks aside and went to the bathroom to get hot water. Suddenly, a WeChat notification came from his phone. Huamin picked up his phone and looked at it. Chapter 39-32. Sister Mian, can we have dinner together tomorrow night? It was from Wei Ying. Wei Ying and Huamin weren't close, so Huamin was surprised when she asked to have dinner together. What's up? Sister Mian, Mingxi and I got remarried. Congratulations. Huamin had heard Jiang Xiaowei mention it but didn't ask for details. So I want to invite you all to dinner together tomorrow night. Oh, that's a good thing. Okay, send me the address and time of the restaurant. I sincerely invite you and President Qin to come, Wei Ying added. Okay, we'll be there. The next evening, at Wei Ying's invitation, they went to a private hotel owned by the Shen family. The hotel was in a remote area in the suburbs, but the decor was very classy. Shen Mingxi probably wanted to avoid the reporters. After all, his relationship with Wei Ying had been a hot topic for a long time. In the private room, almost everyone was there. Qin Chu, Huamin, Su Yu and Tang Chuan brought Qin Ning. Gao Ran wasn't familiar with Shen Mingxi, so he and Lingling didn't come. Wei Liao and his family, on the other hand, didn't come. How about I give Master Wei a call? Tang Chuan said. Soke, my second brother, might not come. Wei Ying felt a little guilty. Wei Liao was the one who was most against her remarrying Qin Chu. While they were talking, the door of the private room was pushed open and Jiang Xiaowei walked in alone. Sis-in-law, where's my second brother? Wei Ying hurried over to take Jiang Xiaowei's bag. He had something to do and went back to the company. He asked us to eat first and not wait for him. Jiang Xiaowei's words were tactful, but everyone knew it was just an excuse. Wei Liao didn't want to come. Shen Mingxi was a bit embarrassed. He glanced at Jiang Xiaowei behind Wei Ying. Sister Xiaowei, please sit down. Don't call me Sister Xiaowei. You're remarried. You can call me sis-in-law like Ying. Dr. Jiang had always been gracious. Everyone gathered together and the atmosphere was actually quite good. Shen Mingxi rarely ate with this group of people. Huamin and Qin Chu came early and didn't waste a moment. During the banquet, everyone drank quite happily. The more they drank, the more they talked. Even Su Yu, who had always been a man, became a little talkative. He wrapped his arms around Shen Mingxi's neck and said drunkenly, Bro, let me tell you, it's not easy to find someone you like in your life. So, cherish her. You two have known each other for almost half your life. You've been playing together since you were kids. This is fate. This time you've regained what you lost. You have to make good use of this opportunity. I will, Lord Su. Shen Mingxi listened attentively. Old Shen, don't listen to Lord Su. He's so drunk that he won't remember what he said tomorrow. Tang Chuan's words made everyone laugh. Bullshit. I'm very sober, Su Yu quibbled. Lord Su, we're all settled. You're the only one who's been single for 10,000 years. How dare you talk to us about the law of love? Only Tang Chuan dared to tease Su Yu directly. He had no scruples. I'm almost there too. It sounds like you're taken? Tang Chuan jeered, and felt that his boss was a bit off today. He looked happy, but in fact he wasn't that happy. Chapter 39-33. Yes. It's not easy to find women. I have plenty of them in Imperial Star. Suyu was indeed a little drunk, so they didn't know if he was serious or joking. Anyway, it was a happy meal. On the way back, and drove while Suyu lay in the passenger seat with his eyes closed and didn't speak. But he knew his boss wasn't asleep. When they got home, Suyu took off his jacket and lay down on the sofa. President Su, do you want me to pour you a cup of warm water? Suyu waved his hand. I know you're not drunk, and added. Yeah, you know me well. Of course. I've been with you for many years. And grinned. Otherwise we can live together. Puh. No. I don't like men, and refused without hesitation. With a smile, Suyu stood up and leaned against the armrest of the sofa. He looked at him. What are you thinking? I'm talking about living together. You look like a bear. Do you think I won't do it? And, our boss is a professional hater. Lying on the sofa, Suyu didn't feel sleepy. He took out his cell phone and browsed through the news, Weibo and WeChat moments. In his WeChat moments, Pudding and Little Bean posted new statuses. The two of them bought a new dress today. It was a beautiful golden gown, very beautiful. Little Bean didn't know how to take selfies, so her face was a little big but chubby and cute. Pudding had a high EQ and was good at finding angles. With the help of beauty apps, she was a super beauty. Suyu liked their posts but didn't say anything. It was 11:30 p.m. Suddenly Han Yueao also posted a status. It said, actually not all girls like money. Some kind-hearted girls also like animals. For example, I've liked Land Rovers, BMWs, Jaguars, Hummers, Bugatti Veyron, and Lynx since I was a child, right? After Suyu finished reading, he laughed. Although he felt that it was a little old-fashioned, it was still very enjoyable to read in the middle of the night. Therefore, Suyu had a sudden impulse and left a comment below her. If you win the championship in Dance of Allure, I will send you more than one small animal. Reading the comments, Han Yueao was thrilled and replied immediately, President Su, are you serious? Suyu, of course, when did I say that I don't mean it? Han Yueao, okay. I'll take the Bugatti Veyron. Suyu, you have a unique taste. Han Yueao, no. Just because the Bugatti Veyron is the most expensive. Suyu, alright, you win. Han Yueao, if I win, will you really buy it for me? Han Yueao asked again worriedly. Suyu, of course, but if you get eliminated this week, you'll have to work for me for free for a year without any pay. Damn it. You're indeed a capitalist. See? Do you think I'll let you take the car for free? Go, you little money grubber. Good luck. Suyu's tone was light. He didn't seem to take Anne's words to heart. President Su, are you hungry? I'll treat you to a midnight snack. Excited, Han Yueao couldn't fall asleep. In fact, she wasn't hungry, but she wanted to see Suyu. If you invite me to Ocean Emperor, I'll go, Suyu replied. President Su, you're heartless. You're a big boss, but I'm just a small employee. How can you treat me like that? Even if you sell me, I'm not worth the price of a meal at Ocean Emperor. Good. Go to bed. Don't talk nonsense. Suyu didn't want to say more. After replying, he tossed his cell phone aside and sighed softly. President Su, do you have something on your mind? And knew something was wrong with his boss and had been holding it in since he came back. And what do you think I should buy for Dr. Hua's wedding? Suyu finally asked in a low and lonely voice. Dr. Hua is holding a wedding? And was surprised because he hadn't heard anything about it. Chapter 39-34. Oh. Anne's reaction was so big, but Suyu only said, oh. However, based on Suyu's temper, the calmer he appeared on the surface, the more turbulent his heart was, and was no longer in the mood to boil water or make tea. He walked over and asked, President Su, who said this? Did President Hua tell you? No, Mian wouldn't provoke me so directly. I accidentally heard Tang Chuan's wife say it. Miss Qi Ning said it? Then, it's most likely true. Suyu smiled and didn't say anything. Has the date been set? It can't be soon, right? President Hua is so pregnant, she won't look good in a wedding dress, and mumbled. She said that she'll hold it after giving birth to the boy. Oh, that's soon. President Hua seems to be in labor soon, and didn't know much about women, but seeing that Huamin had been pregnant for so long, he thought that it was almost time. Boss, look on the bright side. President Hua will get married sooner or later, and she's about to give birth to her second child. I've thought it through. I'm happy. I'm happy for her. When Suyu said this, bitterness flashed through his heart. He didn't know why he was being so pretentious. That day, when he had dinner with Tang Chuan and the others, He heard Qi Ning say that Mian had been looking for wedding dresses recently. Suyu felt a little uncomfortable. It wasn't that he was unhappy, but it wasn't that he was happy. He was the only one who knew the extent of his dilemma. In fact, he had known for a long time that Qi Ning and Hua Xiqian hadn't held a wedding. The previous one had been delayed because of Hua Xiqian's strange scheme. Now that the third child was about to be born, with how much Qin Chu loved Hua Min, it was impossible for him not to hold a wedding for her. However, for some reason, whenever Suyu thought of Hua Min wearing a wedding dress and marrying someone else, he would feel sad. As long as he imagined this scene, he would feel indescribably sad. He knew that all of this stemmed from the fact that he still loved her deeply. It had never changed all these years. Everyone thought that Suyu had almost forgotten about Hua Min. But only he knew that in his heart, this heavy love would only grow deeper with the passage of time. But it wouldn't fade away, and looked at his boss's miserable expression and felt very uncomfortable in his heart. President Su, why don't we find an excuse to sneak out at President Hua's wedding? Didn't you say that you wanted to see the aurora? Can I go with you? It's okay Su's it's and Hua Mian? Suyu smiled bitterly. He didn't dare to say these words to Tang Chuan and the others. After all, it was immoral to think about a married woman all these years. Therefore, Suyu could only talk to him for a while, which made him feel better. Boss, I feel bad for you too, and wasn't a scholar. He only knew that Suyu had been very good to him over the past few years like family. Therefore he felt bad when he saw Suyu feel bad. I'm fine. I was just thinking about what I should give Mian for her wedding. Suyu's voice became softer and softer as the alcohol took over. He slowly closed his eyes and fell asleep, and picked up the blanket and covered Suyu with it. If it was in the past, he might not be able to understand Suyu's feelings. However, after he fell in love with Lu Yen, he gradually understood the pain of not being able to get what he wanted. To him, Lu Yen was an unreachable goddess. Then to Suyu, Hua Min was also a bright moon that he couldn't get. At this moment, in a seaside town on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Psycho Qiao, what do you think I should give my sister for her wedding? Chapter 39-35. I think it's best if you give her a wedding, Xiao Fei said slowly. What do you mean? I mean Sister Mian's wedding, and we'll have a wedding at the same time. Ah. Then my wedding will be blown up. After all, I have so many enemies. Lu Yen took it as a joke, so she laughed heartily. Besides, what she said was true. Lu Yen was always hunted down and was afraid that her whereabouts would be exposed. If they had a high-profile wedding, the wedding would be hell on earth. That was unimaginable. Lu Yen had never thought that she would have a wedding. So when Xiao Fei said this, she laughed and took it as an impossible joke. But Xiao Fei's heart ached slightly when he heard this. The woman he loved deeply, yet he couldn't complete a simple wedding for her. Then what right did he have to say he loved her? Xiao Fei put down the Russian book in his hand and walked to Lu Yen. Then he reached out and hugged her gently from behind. Xiao Yen, I'll definitely give you a wedding. A wedding that'll be fair and square. Lu Yen was slightly surprised at first, but then she smiled warmly. Okay, I'll wait. I'll live until that day comes. Inside the Shin family's mansion, Tian Tian left 3 days ago. Shin Mingxi asked a teacher to pick her up and bring her a lot of clothes. Jing City wasn't far. Compared to other countries, it wasn't far. Shin Mingxi was a bit sad, but Tian Tian didn't cry. She was quite happy. She took her favorite dolls and clothes with her. Shin Mingxi paid for 1 year's expensive tuition and living expenses. He also gave Tiantian's life teacher a credit card. Of course, the teacher didn't dare to spend too much. After all, there was a record of credit card transactions. After Shin Mingxi and Wei Ying got their marriage certificate, they treated everyone to a low-key meal. Although Wei Liao didn't show up, he did a good job. At least he sent Jiang Xiaowei. In the study, Shin Mingxi was organizing the company's files. Wearing gold-rimmed glasses, Wei Ying was with him while drawing designs on her notebook. After Tian Tian left, the last thing between them seemed to be gone. After being together again, they cherished each other. Are you tired? Shin Mingxi looked at her. Wei Ying shook her head. Shall I get you a cup of coffee? I want to drink it. I'll make it myself. You go do your thing. Shin Mingxi nodded. Suddenly he thought of something and said, Tomorrow is the 3rd day of the year, right? According to the rules, I should visit your house. It's okay. You do what you need to do. I'll go back and take a look myself. My parents have already calmed down. Don't. We can't break the rules set by our ancestors. I'll accompany you. I'll also get someone to prepare the returning gifts and bring them over. All right. Wei Ying was happy that Shin Mingxi wasn't as cold as he used to be. He seemed to be considerate of others in everything he did. The two of them worked until late at night and it was finally time to sleep. In fact, ever since the two of them remarried they had never slept together. To be more precise, Wei Ying and Shin Mingxi hadn't been intimate for years after their divorce. The last time the media caught them at the hotel, it was because Wei Ying was drugged and Shin Mingxi gave her a cold bath. Later, when Wei Ying moved into the Shin family's house, she slept in the master bedroom while Shin Mingxi slept in the guest bedroom. They hadn't done anything intimate until now. Finally, all the knots in their hearts were gone. Ying, take a shower and go to bed. What about you? Wei Ying looked at him. How about? I still sleep in the guest bedroom? Shin Mingxi asked shyly. Chapter 39-36. So, you're going to sleep in the guest bedroom for the rest of your life? Wei Ying looked at him amused. Fine. Since you're so virtuous you can sleep in the guest bedroom. I'm going to lock the door. Wei Ying pushed open the door to the master bedroom and was about to lock the door. Shin Mingxi squeezed his way in. What are you doing? Wei Ying looked up. I want to sleep here, Shin Mingxi said earnestly. Wei Ying blushed slightly. Don't you like sleeping in the guest bedroom? No. I've always wanted to sleep in this room but I'm afraid you'll kick me out. Silly. Wei Ying was both amused and exasperated. Caught off guard, Shin Mingxi pushed her down onto the thick carpet. Whoa. What are you doing? Doing my homework. It seemed that Shin Mingxi had been holding back for a long time now that he had spoken so bluntly. I haven't showered yet. Wait for me to shower. Wei Ying found it too sudden. You'll shower later? His words were as gentle as water. Wei Ying fell into his spell and couldn't wake up. She fell into depravity with Shin Mingxi until she leaped to the peak of happiness. At South Hill Manor, after breakfast, Huamin and Qin Chu went out and got into the car together. Aside from prenatal checkups, shopping, and dates, Huamin went to the company with Qin Chu most of the time. They worked diligently together. It's only a dozen meters away from the car. Daddy has to hold Mommy's hand. Little Bean was jealous. If you dare, go and tell Daddy to ignore Mommy, Pudding provoked her. Of course. Why don't you go and tell him? If I do, I'll be left out. You know Mommy is more important to Daddy than the two of us combined. No, you're wrong. The two of us plus the baby in Mommy's belly are more important to him than Mommy, Pudding corrected her. So, I don't dare to tell him. Then don't talk about it behind his back. That's so cruel. No, I'll tell Buyan. Little Bean picked up her phone and started a video call with Gao Buyuan. Pudding sat on the sofa and watched the news seriously. One good thing about Pudding was that she never fought with her family to watch TV. She looked at whatever everyone was looking at. Her grandfather looked at the lecture room of the 100 schools, so she followed suit. Her grandmother watched the 8 o'clock mother-in-law and daughter-in-law drama, and she watched it too. She was interested in the financial news when her daddy came back. When Mommy came back, she watched the medical lecture and followed along. Of course, even when Little Bean was bored and went to watch Peppa Pig and Peter Pan, she would still watch them. Therefore, Pudding's family always had a good impression of her and said that she was a tolerant child. Since there were no classes in the morning, the twins decided to play at home. Holding the phone, Little Bean went to harass Gao Buyuan. Pudding sat beside her grandfather and watched a treasure appraisal program with him. Grandma washed some fruits and gave them to the grandfather and grandson. Then she went with the maid to prepare dumplings for lunch. This thing is good. It can't be found in the market anymore. Old Master Qin praised the wooden carving on the television. Grandpa, you like it? Yes, I like it. I think it's very romantic to drink tea. But your father has never liked it. He says it's rustic, Qin Chu's father said with a smile. Then Pudding picked up her phone and made a call. After hanging up, Pudding said, Grandpa, I've bought the thing you liked just now. Qin Chu's father. Chapter 39-37. Where did you buy this? The things that are appraised are all treasures that have fallen into the hands of the common people. After they are appraised as genuine, some will be sold at the auction house, while others will be kept waiting for buyers. I know a friend in this field and just called him. He said that he still has it and will probably send it to us at noon. Qin Chu's father. Perhaps he thought that his granddaughter was still young, so he didn't take it seriously. Now, after watching a show and casually saying that he liked it, this girl bought it. Moreover, she only made one call and said that she had a friend in this field? What kind of world was Qin Chu's father living in? Am I really that old? Pudding, how much did you spend on it? Old Master Qin knew that this wooden carving wasn't cheap, especially the completed wooden carving that he had just seen. It's not expensive, Pudding said casually. How much is it not expensive? The appraisal shop quoted 17 million. My friend said that if I want it, it'll be 15 million. 15 million? Qin Chu's father was really excited. Although he had been an entrepreneur his whole life and was a tycoon, he had retired from his life. It had been a long time since he had dealt with large amounts of money. Many of the expensive things at home were bought by Qin Chu and Huamin. Last month he went to the antique market with his old friend and saw a string of beads that cost 600,000 yuan. He couldn't bear to sell it. Now his granddaughter had bought a wooden carving worth 15 million in less than a minute. This was really exciting. Pudding, this is too expensive. No, quickly call them and return it. Old Master Qin didn't want his granddaughter to buy it. Grandpa, it's rare for you to like something. Just take it. Not to mention 15 million, even if it's 150 million, as long as you're happy, I'm willing to pay. Pudding's words brought tears to the old man's eyes. I'm really satisfied to have such an obedient and filial granddaughter like you in my life. Grandpa, this is all my money. I earned it by trading stocks. It's not my father's, nor is it our company's. I'm giving it to you with my own money. Don't feel bad. You child, your own money is money too. It doesn't grow on trees. As long as you're happy, it's worth it. I won't return it. Send it over at noon. I'll drink tea with Grandpa. Okay. I'll soak the bilyuakun that your father brought back for me a while ago. Yes. The sound of the grandfather and grandson's laughter could be heard from upstairs. Mrs. Qin deliberately scared little Bean. Look at your sister. She's so good at pleasing Grandpa. I'm just afraid that we won't dote on her when your brother comes out. All you do is video chat with Buyuan all day long. You don't know how to spend time with Grandpa and Grandma. Aren't you afraid that you'll fall out of favor? Fall out of favor? That's impossible. Little Bean smiled. How can it not exist? Grandma teased her deliberately. Just based on the fact that my father's blood flows in my body, the blood of our Qin family, all of you must love me. Little Bean's words made Grandma laugh heartily. Her words were crude, but the truth was not crude. Grandma deliberately went downstairs to tell Grandpa and putting these words. Grandpa also laughed and said, My little Bean is very smart. Who said she doesn't have enough EQ? Really? Her EQ is very high. It's just lower than mine. Don't misunderstand. Pudding laughed. GK headquarters, Huamin fell asleep on the sofa in the office. After Qin Chu tucked him in, he went through documents until noon. Huamin slept for about an hour. When he woke up, he said that he was hungry. Honey, let's go to the cafeteria for lunch. I'm so hungry. Let's not go to the cafeteria today. I'll take you to a good place. Qin Chu smiled mysteriously and reached out to pull Huamin up. Chapter 39-38. Huamin knew that every time her husband smiled mysteriously, it meant that something good was about to happen. Mr. Qin would only show this kind of expression when he was planning a surprise for her. After a while, Huamin understood her husband's routine. She didn't ask any questions and let Mr. Qin hold her hand the whole way. They drove to the top floor of GK's first high school restaurant downtown. President Qin, Mrs. Qin. The restaurant manager led them through the long hallway. Are they here? Qin Chu asked casually. They're here, they're waiting for you inside. The manager smiled. Okay. Qin Chu nodded and led Huamin to the door. Do you know who's inside? Qin Chu asked Huamin. Huamin shook his head. Then open the door and see. Huamin gently pushed open the door and was excited to see the two people sitting inside. Rick, Cici? Huamin ignored her heavy body and quickly walked to the table. Cici immediately stood up and the two heavy pregnant women hugged each other. Qin Chu smiled and sat down beside Rick. How was it? Was the long flight tiring? Qin Chu asked him. It was okay. Rick was probably the only man in the world who spoke less than Qin Chu. He never talked nonsense and always went straight to the point. Cici, you're about to give birth, right? Rick looked at Cici's belly, which was about the same size as his. Yeah, it's about the same as your due date. Wow, that's great. It's so inconvenient for you to come back at this time. You're pregnant and you're on a long flight. What are you going to do when you get back? Huamin was an authoritative gynecologist, so he knew a lot of general knowledge. Pregnant women should try to avoid flying when they were about to give birth. After all, it was bumpy at high altitude. If something happened, there were no rescue measures on the plane. Therefore, it was not advisable for pregnant women to fly back and forth, especially since Cici and the others had flown back from the United States. It was a long flight that took more than 10 hours. This time, I'm not going back. I plan to give birth to the child in China. Ah. Huamin was shocked. She had not expected this at all. Huamin looked at Rick on the other side as if seeking confirmation. The medical standards in the country are very advanced now. When I'm overseas, I often go out. I'm worried about leaving her alone. It's better to have more friends here. That's great. Huamian grabbed Cece's hand, genuinely happy from the bottom of her heart. Have you thought about how to give birth? Huamin asked Cece. I want to give birth naturally because I'm still young and exercise a lot. I even do yoga for pregnant women, so I want to try giving birth naturally. Huamin patted his chest and laughed. Age, how hurtful. I almost forgot that I'm an older woman. Sister Mian, are you going to do a C-section? I haven't thought about it yet. I'll see. Huamin had indeed been thinking about this problem. During dinner, Cece and Huamin went to the washroom. Only Qin Chu and Rick were left in the private room. Qin Chu played with Rick's lighter in his hand. Then he asked in a low voice, has the situation been tense over there recently? Qin Chu was not as gullible as women. He knew that something must have happened over there since Rick suddenly sent his wife and child back. Yeah, it's very tense. Do you need my help? Not yet. I'll let you know when I need it. How long do you plan to stay? Qin Chu tilted his head and looked at him. 2 or 3 days. Then I'll go to Colombia to check on the goods. Colombia is very chaotic. Don't you have enemies there? Yes. So I want you to pass on a message to Lu Yen. Is she willing to help me deliver the goods? You want to ask Yen for help? Qin Chu was surprised. With Rick's personality, he rarely asked for help. Even Qin Chu himself rarely asked for help. But this time he asked for help from Lu Yen? Did the sun rise from the west? Chapter 39-39. Rick nodded. Looks like you're really in trouble. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked Lu Yen for help, Qin Chu guessed. Yes, I did run into a problem. The Colombian drug lords have hired a man named Caslias. He's the leader of a terrorist organization and his methods are cruel. Killing people is as simple as eating and drinking. He's already killed a lot of my people. So far, I haven't found anyone who can suppress him. Of course, if it wasn't for Cece's pregnancy, I would have fought him myself. But now it seems like I'm still worried. So, you want Lu Yen to deal with Casillas? Qin Chu said for him. Apparently the person Casillas fears the most is Lu Yen. He's been defeated twice by Lu Yen. Once Lu Yen pierced his lung and almost killed him. So, it's a defeated opponent. Then Yen probably isn't interested. She'd rather challenge someone who's difficult. Qin Chu smiled. I won't let Lu Yen do this for free. I know I have to pay her. If you know the rules, why don't you just ask Yen? Qin Chu said on purpose. I'm not looking for you because of Lu Yen. Can you give me a fair price? Rick looked like a wronged wife. Qin Chu almost laughed out loud. So, you asked me to help you bargain. The 2 men were talking in the private room. The 2 women were in the washroom at the end of the corridor, and they were talking about something private. Sister Mian, other than waiting for the delivery, I also want to attend your wedding with President Qin. Huamin smiled happily. Sister Mian, how are the wedding preparations going? We just started. After all, I can't wear a wedding dress in my current state. We'll decide on the date after the baby is born. But if you stay in China, I'm sure you'll be able to make it. Okay. Cece washed her hands and wiped them with a piece of tissue. Cece, yeah? How's your sister? Huamin remembered Lingxian. The last time he saw her was on the cruise. Cece's eyes dimmed at the mention of her sister. Ever since my sister came back to China and found out that she was hypnotized and almost hurt Lord Su, she has been very dispirited. You know, she has always loved Lord Su very much. How could she bear to hurt him? You can't blame her for that. The bad guys took advantage of the situation, Huamin comforted. Yes, I told her that too, but she couldn't figure it out. She kept thinking that it was her fault. When she went back, she didn't go to the college to further her studies. I asked her to stay in New Orleans with me, but she wasn't in the mood. Later, her manager said that she would bring her out for a trip. She's in California now, but she's still not in good condition. Give her some time. She'll get better. Huamin liked Lingxian and thought she was gentle and kind. Of course, Suyu wasn't a good match for her. After all, she was too soft and couldn't suppress Suyu. With Suyu's hot temper, she had to fight fire with fire. He was fierce, so she had to be fiercer than him. Okay, I also believe that my sister will get better. Alright, how's Lord Su? Does he have a girlfriend? No. I really don't know if my sister will have a chance in the future. Cece smiled helplessly, although she knew the chances were slim. Suyu will get married sooner or later. You will never be alone. Huomin's words were like a prophecy or a promise for Suyu. Sister Mian, in his heart he's always loved you, right? Cece's voice was very low and soft. After all, this topic was a bit heavy for Huomin. Chapter 39-40. Before Huomin could answer, someone knocked on the bathroom door. Mrs. Hua, are you still in there? It was the bodyguard from South Hill Manor. Yes, Huomin immediately answered. Mr. Hua was worried about you and Miss Cece, so he asked me to check on you. We're fine, we'll go back now. They didn't dare to waste any more time. These two pregnant women were the apple of the man's eye. Huomin pulled Cece out of the bathroom and went back to the private room. The four of them chatted and ate for about 2 hours before leaving. Rick sent Cece back to her parents' home with several bodyguards protecting her. Her situation was similar to Huomin's. Huomian and Qin Chu, on the other hand, returned to GK. In the afternoon, Jixin suddenly rushed into the office. Sis, brother-in-law, what's wrong? Why are you running around? Huomin put down the book in his hand and looked at Jixin, who was in a panic. Sis, brother-in-law, Mom just called and said, take your time, take your time. Qin Chu closed the laptop in front of him and looked at Jixin calmly. I ran so much. I'll take my time, Mom just called and asked us to go back as soon as possible. There's an emergency at home. Why didn't she call me? Huomin was surprised. She said your phone was off. Huomin picked up his phone and looked at it. Indeed, his phone had run out of battery and he didn't have time to charge it. Did Mom say anything? What's so urgent? Huomian already had a rough idea of what was going on. Mom said it's great news. Anyways, let's go back. Bella is waiting for us downstairs to get the car from the garage. Okay, you can go now. We'll be there in a minute. Qin Chu nodded. Then Jixin ran downstairs like crazy. It was obvious that he was very excited. After Jixin left, Qin Chu and Huomin looked at each other. There was a tacit understanding in their eyes. Hubby? He's here, isn't he? Qin Chu had already guessed. Yeah, what's coming will come. I knew it. Huomin took in a deep breath. Don't be afraid, I'll face it with you. Qin Chu knew that Huomin was very nervous and concerned about this matter. Jixin and Bella drove off first, and Qin Chu and Huomin arrived shortly after. Sky Blessing Court. As soon as Huomin entered the door, he was attracted by a figure. That person. She was sitting on the sofa, and although her gaze was a little sluggish, but her face, her looks, her figure, and even her clothes, that was Uncle Jing himself. Huomin had lived with her for more than 10 years, so he was very familiar with this. Although Huomin knew it might be strange, the moment he saw Jingda, he was shocked. Her eyes were still wet with tears. Uncle Jing, she said in a low voice. Qin Chu didn't have a deep impression of Jingda because back then, they were still in school and had only met a few times, so they didn't have deep feelings for each other. Dad? Jixin's reaction was huge. He rushed over and knelt before the man, tears streaming down his face. Bella was a little flustered and didn't know what to do. After all, when she and Jixin started dating, Jingda had been dead for more than 10 years. Yang Meirong stood beside Jingda, tears streaming down her face. Jingda didn't speak, but he reached out and touched Jixin's head. Dad, I'm not dreaming, right? Are you really back? Are you really back? Jixin grabbed his father's hand tightly, feeling very emotional. Qin Chu hadn't spoken since he came in. He quietly put his hand on Huomin's shoulder and hugged him tightly. Chapter 39-41. Do you remember him, Dad? Yang Meirong looked at Jingda with tears in her eyes. This is my son Jixin. Uncle Jing finally spoke. His voice was the same as before, but his tone and expression were a bit strange. Dad, it's really you? Dad, I missed you so much. I've missed you so much all these years. At this moment, Jixin was like a child, crying miserably. His tears flowed out like a fountain. Each wave was fiercer than the last. Jingda held Jixin in his arms, and Bella, who was watching the reunion of mother and son, couldn't help but shed tears. However, Qin Chu watched it all coldly and became even more cautious. Even Huomin was affected by the scene, and Qin Chu was the only one who remained sane. After crying for a long time, Jixin stood up and Yang Meirong waved at Huomin. Mian, come here. Huomian walked over with her big belly, and Qin Chu followed closely behind. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to stop any sudden danger. Dad, do you remember who this is? Yang Meirong pointed at Huomin and said to Huomin in a choked voice. Jingda glanced at Huamin and his eyes flashed. Is this Mian? His question made Huamian very excited, as if he wasn't sure. She rushed over and tugged at Jingda's clothes, crying, "Uncle Jing, it's me. I'm Mian. Mian, you're so big now." His words were like tear gas, making Yang Merong, Jixin, and Huamin cry together. Finally, after the scene, everyone calmed down. Then the family sat around the sofa. "Mom, what on earth is going on?" Huamin naturally wanted to know the details. After all, the fact that a dead person could come back to life was too terrifying and unscientific. "Yeah, Mom, where did you find Dad?" "I went with you to identify his body and bury him." "How did he?" Jixin couldn't believe it either. Yang Merong smiled and looked at Jingda. "Why don't you tell the children?" Jingda nodded and said slowly, "In fact, my memory is not complete. I only remember some scattered things. When I woke up, I was in a small town in Europe. I had no past, no memories, and no identity. No one knew where I came from. Later, these memories gradually appeared in my dreams and I followed them to this place. In fact, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I was reborn, transmigrated, or my soul was entrusted to another body. But I know that I am Jingda and you are my family. After all, I only have you in my memory and I don't remember anything else." "How is that possible?" Jixin was shocked. Huamin, on the other hand, looked much calmer than before. Qin Chu listened quietly and didn't speak. "I met your dad when I was buying groceries at the market. At that time, your dad was standing there in a daze. Old he who was selling fish has been our neighbor for many years. He recognized him at a glance and called out his name. I rushed over to take a look. It was really him, so I brought him back. Later, I found out that although he had lost some of his memories, he still remembered most of them. He could even accurately tell me my birthday, the old house we used to live in, our neighbors back then, and so many more. He remembered them all. I think God has opened his eyes and allowed your dad to be reborn." Yang Meirong said to Jixin in excitement. "Uncle Jing, you came back from Europe. It's such a long journey. How did you come back without any identification?" Qin Chu looked at him and asked word for word. Chapter 3942. Jingda replied calmly, "Well, I went to the Chinese consulate and told them about my situation. They compared the information and thought that Jingda and I were a perfect match, so they gave me a new ID card and went back to China. But to be honest, I really don't remember when I woke up and what happened before. Anyway, I went back to China after I woke up and it was only a few days in total. Later, I checked some information and found that there was such a precedent in the West. It was said that after a man died many years ago, his soul traveled into a child's body. The child took all his memories and went to find his relatives. It's really mysterious. Many foreign experts also agree that people have past and present lives. It's said that the world's most powerful hypnotist can hypnotize people into their previous 9 lives and remember what kind of people they were in their previous 9 lives. It's really mysterious. Uncle Jing, you're so well prepared and knowledgeable." Qin Chu smiled as if there was a hidden meaning in his words. But Jixin and Yang Merong didn't get it. "Oh my God. I can't believe that old Jing came back to life. If people knew about this, they'd be scared to death, thinking that he came back to life." Yang Merong said as she held Jingda's hand affectionately. "So, Dad, you were the person I saw at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau that day?" Jixin suddenly remembered what happened that day. "Yeah. I just came back and went to the old house to look for you guys. But it was demolished, so I wandered around the streets. Until today, I ran into old he and your mom at the market." Jingda put his big hand on Yang Meirong's. "Sis, this is great news. We must celebrate. Ah, Dad is back." Jixin was as happy as a child, just like Yang Meirong. Huamin nodded with a smile. "Of course we must celebrate. It's great news. I'll go make dumplings. You guys talk." Yang Meirong was very happy and went straight into the kitchen. "Dad, let me make tea for you. I remember that you used to love tea guanyin. Back then we were poor and you always went to other people's houses for tea. Now that we're rich, Sis always buys me and Mom the best tea guanyin. You should try it." Jixin hurried to make tea for Jingda. Bella sensibly followed her mother-in-law to the kitchen to help. "Hubby, I just remembered that we still have some wine in the car. Let's go get it. You and Uncle Jing can drink some later." "All right, I'll go now." "I'll go with you. There's some food in the trunk." Huamin found an excuse and left with Qin Chu. After walking for about 10 meters, Qin Chu activated the anti-eavesdropping device and nodded to Huamin. What he meant was that it was safe now. "You can say whatever you want." "Honey, I observed him from a close distance. He didn't wear a mask." Yen told me how to identify a mask, so I paid special attention to his ears just now. I didn't find anything wrong with his ears at such a close distance. Do you really believe that he is Uncle Jing? Qin asked her. How's that possible? I don't believe that a dead person can come back to life in broad daylight. Besides, if he is Uncle Jing, then who is buried in the North Mountain Cemetery? Huamin sneered. This person is just as we expected. He showed up twice to set the stage but avoided all the surveillance cameras and didn't let us find him. Now he suddenly appeared in your house and tried to pretend to be your family. This is really strange. Mian, we have to be careful. I can feel that our enemy is very powerful. Behind this, there may be dangers that we can't imagine. Qin Chu took Huamin's hand and warned her again. Chapter 39:43. Yes, honey, I can feel it. Why don't you leave it to me? I'm afraid you're afraid I won't be able to do it because of my feelings and guilt towards Uncle Jing? Huamin knew what Qin Chu was going to say. Qin Chu was silent, but it meant that he agreed with her. Huamin walked up to Qin Chu and reached out to touch his handsome face. Hubby, I won't. I'm very clear. The Uncle Jing who used to treat me well and dote on me, died more than 10 years ago and turned into a pile of dirt. Even if this man in front of me looks exactly the same and has the same memories, he can't be Uncle Jing. He reeks of conspiracy from head to toe. I didn't ask him in detail just now, but I bet if I ask too much, he'll be full of loopholes. When you saw his expression just now, I was really worried. Qin Chu said. You were worried that I'd be brainwashed and fooled by him, right? No. I was just acting to make him think that I believed him. Smart, honey. Hearing Huamin's words, Qin Chu was very pleased. Honey, when we go back, Jixin and I will accompany him. You find a chance to tell Bella that she and Jixin will live at Sky Blessing Court from today onward. And supervise that person to protect Mom and Jixin? Huamin nodded. Can Bella shoulder such a big responsibility? I'm worried. Honey, don't worry. This person went through so much trouble to come back, he definitely didn't come to destroy my family. I can guarantee that he won't do anything big for now. You're right. Okay, I'll make it short with Bella later. Bella has always been calm and smart. Make it short and don't let that person find out, and don't let my mom hear, Huamin instructed. Okay, I'm just worried that Mom and Jixin won't be able to take it when they see his true face. Qin Chu felt that the cruelest thing in the world was to use the identity of a dead person to deceive the feelings of the living. Huamin didn't know what kind of power was behind this man. He didn't know how he managed to look exactly like Jingda. Maybe it was plastic surgery? However, this was a heaven-shaking conspiracy. It was definitely not a blessing from the heavens. After the couple finished their discussion, they returned to the house with the wine and fruits. Then he saw Yang Meirong and Bella carrying steaming hot dumplings to the table. Uncle Jing, do you still remember what kind of stuffing we usually eat at home? Huamin asked with a smile. Jingda paused for about 5 seconds before he said slowly, shrimp with chives. It's great that Dad still remembers. I feel like we've returned to the past. Jixin was very naive and really believed that his father was back. He was even more excited when Jingda answered Huamin's question correctly. The family of 5 sat at the table and started eating dumplings. Yang Meirong didn't eat much herself and kept putting dumplings into Jingda's bowl. Dad, eat more. Okay, that's enough. I can't eat all of this. Jingda smiled and lowered his head to eat the dumplings. Uncle Jing, were you alone when you came back from Europe? Didn't you get anything good from there? Qin Chu asked casually. No, not a single person. That's strange. How did you appear thousands of miles away? I wonder if someone moved you there, Qin Chu said in a low voice. Everyone heard it loud and clear. Maybe my dad was brought there by lightning or a flash of light after he was reborn. That's how it's written in novels about rebirth and time travel. Right, my dad died in a car accident, right? Maybe my dad's soul was already in this world when the car accident happened, ha. Jixin's imagination ran wild. Huamin said with a smile, but reality isn't a novel. It's not that ridiculous and dramatic. Jingda's hand that was about to eat the dumplings paused slightly. He seemed to have mixed feelings about Huamin's words. Chapter 39:44. Okay. Let's not talk about this. Let's eat. Yang Meirong was bored by the children's conversation and hurried to eat. During the meal, Huamin didn't say anything else. Daddy, you'll stay here today, right? Jixin said happily. Of course. Where else can we stay? Yang Meirong said with a smile. Jixin, you and Bella can stay here. The house is big and you can spend time with Uncle Jing. Huamin asked Jixin and his wife to move back. Ah, okay. I was thinking the same thing. Dad, you won't mind if we come back to eat and drink, right? Jixin put his arm around Jingda's shoulder. Of course not. Hee. Jingda chuckled. But if you looked closely, you would find that his smile was still unnatural. On the way back, Huamin didn't say a word. Honey, are you okay? Qin Chu was worried about Huamin. I'm fine. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about going to Southside tomorrow to do a DNA test to see who Uncle Jing is. DNA? DNA test? You'll get his. Qin Chu didn't finish his sentence. Obviously, Huamin already had the DNA test. Huamin raised his hand with a smile. There was a short strand of black hair in his hand. You're amazing, honey. How did you get this? Qin Chu admired Huamin's cleverness. He got Jingda's hair without a sound. Once the DNA test was done and there was evidence, he could convince his mother-in-law and brother-in-law and tell them that this person was not their husband and father at all. Since you got it, why do you still look worried? Qin Chu tilted his head and found Huamin didn't look happy. Hubby, do you think those people who are hiding behind the scenes and plotting against us will be so easily seen through by us? If it was really so easy to see through it, why would they go through so much trouble to create such a person? So, you mean? Yizichin asked. It's nothing. I'm just worried that the results tomorrow might be different from what we expected. Qin Chu reached out his hand and placed it on Huamin's leg. Calm down. Genes can't be easily manufactured. Otherwise, this would be the biggest joke in biology. I'm very calm. I'm fine. After returning home, she saw that Huamin was still in low spirits. Finally, Qin Chu decided to let her talk to Lu Yan. Of course, it was late at night when Qin Chu carefully activated several anti-eavesdropping and anti-tracking devices. In the study, he dialed Lu Yan's number. At this time, Huamin had already changed into her nightgown and walked in with a big belly. Hubby, why did you call me? Qin Chu didn't say anything. He just stood up and put the earphones on her ears. A very familiar voice came from inside. Sister. Little Yan. Hearing Lu Yan's voice, Huamin finally smiled with relief. Sis, it's late over there. You're still awake? No. I haven't been sleeping well lately. I'm always awake. That's because you're about to have a baby. Sis, do you miss me? Of course I miss you. Although she was scolding Lu Yan, Huamin couldn't help but smile. I miss you a lot too. How about this? I'll go back when you're about to give birth. I'll go to the hospital with you. No. Huamin refused without hesitation. What? Are you afraid that I'll go back and freeload? I don't eat much. 1 Australian lobster, 5 pounds of shark fin and 1 king crab every day. Lu Yan joked. Chapter 39:45. No. I'm afraid you're in danger. Huamin vaguely remembered Qin Chu mentioning that Lu Yan was in trouble. Especially Zheng Rou's disappearance, which was rumored to be Lu Yan's doing. In order to find his daughter, Secretary Zheng had offered a big bounty on Lu Yan's head. Lu Yan was like a fish in water when she was abroad. But in China, if her whereabouts were leaked, she would be in big trouble. Wasn't he being caught red-handed? You're afraid that old man Zheng will give me a hard time, right? Don't worry. I'm not afraid of people with higher ranks than him, let alone him. Plus, he's obviously stupid. Zheng Rou isn't in my hands. I don't know how he could believe the rumors. Lu Yan didn't seem worried about Secretary Zheng. He could even joke around with Huamian and even talk about family matters. Sis, do Pudding and Little Bean miss me? Yes, they talk about you all the time. Little Bean is talkative and murmurs your name. Pudding doesn't talk much, but she looks at your WeChat for a long time. Hearing your description, I feel so happy that I'm about to cry. Lu Yan was filled with happiness at the thought of her 2 nieces. Yan, have you contacted Dad recently? How's he? Huamian had been worried about the professor. He was an old man after all, and it was sad for him to live in hiding like this. We haven't contacted each other in a long time, but Dad should be fine. If something happens, we'll send an emergency signal. But don't worry, the old man is smarter than I am. He'll be fine. Okay, that's good. You and Dad must take care of yourselves. Huamin reminded her repeatedly. Sis, after I take care of this garbage, I'll go back to see you and give birth to baby Chu with you. Take care of yourself and don't run around with my brother-in-law. I know. Huamin smiled with tears in his eyes. Honey. Qin Chu reminded her in a low voice. It was time. If the conversation was too long, it would be very easy to be tracked. Huamin understood what Qin Chu meant, so he quickly added, Don't bully Faye. Stay with him, don't get into trouble, and drink more water. Don't eat cold food when you're on your period. Don't fight and don't get hurt. Before Huamin could finish his sentence, she saw that the time was almost up and quickly hung up the phone. Then she took a deep breath. Hubby, am I super long-winded? Yin must think that I'm possessed by Tang Seng. Huamin raised his head and laughed with tears in his eyes. No, you're the best sister in the world. Mr. Qin cupped Huamin's face in his hands and kissed her. His wife was always so gentle and cute in front of her beloved family. On the other end of the phone, Lu Yin slowly took off her earphones. She knew that her sister's words were cut short because time was up. Her sister's unfinished words were like waves of heat to her, blowing against her face. Growing up, no one told her that she couldn't eat cold food when she was on her period. So, over the years, Lu Yin had been eating ice cream and drinking Coke all the time, causing her menstrual cramps. Of course, these little problems were nothing to Lu Yin. After all, she was a tough woman who wouldn't even frown if she was shot twice. What's wrong? Why do you look so weird? Xiao Fei walked over and saw Lu Yan's blank expression. Chapter 39-46. My sister is so naggy. Lu Yin rubbed the back of her head and smiled mischievously. Lu Yin was so bright and cute that even Xiao Fei couldn't move his eyes away from her. He was deeply attracted to her. Hey, Psycho Xiao, what are you doing? Caught off guard, Lu Yin was kissed by him for a long time. Of course, she was used to this kind of intimacy and didn't push him away as violently as before. At the entrance of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, when it was almost time to get off work, Gao Ran packed up his files and walked into the lobby when he saw Chen Yuning, who he hadn't seen for days. Chief Gao. Little Chen, you're back. Gao Ran still looked unnatural. Yeah. I came to deliver some files for our bureau and came to see you guys. Chen Yuning smiled brightly and innocently. Those who didn't know her would be attracted to her. Chief Gao, Little Chen bought us hot coffee. A policewoman held up the Starbucks in her hand. Chief Gao, if you don't mind, this is for you. Chen Yuning walked over with the hot coffee and looked at Gao Ran shyly. Oh, I've been suffering from insomnia recently, so I don't drink coffee. But I appreciate your kindness. Thank you. Gao Ran didn't dare to touch this woman, especially after he knew her true colors. The more innocent and cute Chen Yuning acted, the more scared he was. After much consideration, he preferred his silly woman. Lingling was hot-tempered, but she was real. If the woman beside him wore a mask all the time, the scene would be terrifying. Chief Gao, on the day I left, I was in a bad mood and didn't have time to say goodbye to you. Since you don't have to work overtime, I'd like to invite you to dinner, okay? Of course, if you don't come, I won't invite you to dinner. This little girl's strength lay in her ability to speak skillfully. It was clearly a threat, but it sounded like a spoiled child. Her meaning was obvious. If Gao Ran refused her request and didn't go, she wouldn't invite him to dinner. At this moment, everyone looked at Gao Ran expectantly. Director, you won't refuse, right? That's right, Chief. Let's go and relax. The atmosphere in the bureau has been too tense recently. Chief Gao, why don't we let ourselves loose occasionally? Chief, let's split the money. After all, there are so many people. Don't let Xiaoqin take it alone, okay? It seemed that everyone had a good impression of Chen Yuning. With so many people pleading for him, Gao Ran would definitely be unreasonable if he didn't agree. Therefore, after a moment of silence, he replied, all right, let's have a meal together, but I'll pay for the bill. Oh yeah, long live Chief Gao. Haha, we must eat well today. It's rare for our director to treat us. After Gao Ran agreed, everyone seemed very happy. A satisfied smile appeared on Chen Yuning's face. Gao Ran then sent a WeChat message to Zhu Lingling. Wife, are you there? Yes. There's a dinner party at the city bureau tonight, so I'll be back later. Okay. In fact, Gao Ran really wanted to tell Zhu Lingling that Chen Yuning was there, but Lingling hadn't been doing well recently. If he told her, it would be troublesome. After hesitating for a while, Gao Ran didn't mention that Chen Yuning would also be at the dinner party. Zhu Lingling thought it would be an ordinary dinner party, so she agreed without hesitation. There were about 26 people in the municipal bureau in total, and 27 including Chen Yuning. They all wanted to eat Sichuan cuisine, so they found a Sichuan restaurant. During the dinner, Chen Yuning didn't show any unusual behavior and kept a distance from Gao Ran. This made Gao Ran let down his guard. Then, Gao Ran stood up to go to the washroom and Chen Yuning followed him. Chapter 39-47. The moment Gao Ran entered the men's washroom, Chen Yuning followed him in and bumped into Gao Ran on purpose. Hey you. Lin Fan said. Gao Ran was about to scold her when he saw it was Chen Yuning and he froze. This is the men's washroom, he reminded her. I'm sorry, Director Gao. I drank too much. I went to the wrong washroom, Chen Yuning said while swaying on purpose. It's okay. Go to the next room. Gao Ran thought it was embarrassing for a woman to go to the wrong washroom. Chen Yuning nodded and turned around, but she slipped and fell backward. Just as she was about to kiss the ground, Gao Ran reached out his hand at the critical moment and helped her up. That was how he saved her life. Thank you, Director Gao. It's okay. Go. Okay. Chen Yuning stood up and stumbled out with her hands covering her face. Gao Ran continued to go to the washroom, not noticing anything wrong. 5 minutes later, Zhu Lingling was squeezing fresh juice for Gao Buyuan. She heard a beep from her cell phone. She unlocked her cell phone and saw a photo. In the photo, Gao Ran seemed to be holding Chen Yuning in his arms. Of course, the photo wasn't clear and was blurry. They seemed to be in the washroom. However, Zhu Lingling would never mistake the silhouettes of these two people, especially her own husband. Zhu Lingling's heart sank when she saw the photo. Seeing that the person who sent the photo was from a strange number, she knew it must be Chen Yuning's doing. But the photo didn't seem to be photoshopped. Zhu Lingling put down the unfinished juice in her hand. She picked up her cell phone and called Gao Ran. Gao Ran stood up and walked to the corridor to answer the call. Honey. Honey, are you still having dinner? Yeah. Where? In a Sichuan restaurant downtown. Are they your colleagues? Yes. Is Chen Yuning there? Hearing Zhu Lingling's question, Gao Ran realized something was wrong. So he chose to tell her the truth. She's there. Why didn't you tell me at the beginning? Zhu Lingling sounded angry. Because I didn't want you to be angry. So I'm not angry now. Zhu Lingling raised her voice in anger. Lingling, if you don't believe me, you can come here and keep an eye on me. There's no need. You've already hugged me and you still ran to the bathroom. What's the point of me looking at you? What do you mean? Gao Ran looked baffled. Zhu Lingling hung up the call. Gao Ran was very anxious and called back, but Zhu Lingling refused to pick up. This really made him anxious. At this time, a male police officer also came out to use the toilet. Little Zhu, come here. Chief, what can I do for you? Here's 5,000 yuan in cash. Take it and pay the bill for me after dinner. If you want to go to the KTV later, I'll reimburse you tomorrow. What about you, Chief? I have an emergency at home. I have to go now. Oh, okay. Tell them I'll be leaving. Okay. Gao Ran left some money and drove home in a hurry. When he got home, he found his wife and child were not at home. Lingling. Buyun, hearing no answer, Gao Ran called Zhu Lingling again. Still no one answered. Gao Ran immediately called Huamin. To Gao Ran's surprise, they didn't go to his parents' home, Zhu Lingling's parents' home or Huamin's home. Then where did the mother and son go? At this moment, Zhu Lingling and Gao Buyuan were in a 5-star hotel suite in the suburbs. Mom, why don't we stay at Auntie Huamin's home this time? Gao Buyuan looked unhappy. Chapter 39-48. You need to be creative when you run away from home. You can't go to the same place every time, right? Fine. Gao Buyuan pouted, still not satisfied. When his mom said that they were running away from home, he packed his luggage excitedly. He thought he could go find Little Bean in a while, but, to his surprise, his mom took him to this shabby place in a taxi. Are you hungry? I'll order takeout for you. Oh. Gao Buyuan continued to complain to Little Bean on his cell phone. Zhu Lingling looked at the blinking screen on her cell phone and still wouldn't answer it. In fact, she knew nothing would happen to Gao Ran and Chen Yuning. She didn't know how the little bitch got such an intimate photo. But Zhu Lingling knew her man well. If something had happened to him, he would have done it long ago and wouldn't have gone through so much trouble. Gao Ran kept calling, but Zhu Lingling still wouldn't answer. Helpless, Gao Ran called a friend in the HQ. Director Gao, what can I do for you? Are you in the office? Yes, I'm on the night shift. Locate this cell phone number for me. Then Gao Ran gave him a string of numbers. Are you arresting someone? You should at least tell your superiors. No. It's my personal business. This is my wife's cell phone number. Did you have a quarrel with your sister-in-law? It's none of your business. Locate it for me. Fine. But I'll blackmail you for a meal of hairy crabs. It was obvious that this person had a good relationship with Gao Ran. They chatted and joked with each other. Zhu Lingling changed out of her pajamas in the bathroom. She was going to take a shower. At this moment, the cell phone in the hotel room rang. Mom, it's the phone. Coming. Curious, Zhu Lingling walked over and picked up the phone. Hello, Ms. Zhu. This is the front desk of the hotel. What can I do for you? Zhu Lingling was puzzled. When we registered, we found some problems with your information. We need you to come down and verify it. Damn it. Are you kidding me? I'm really sorry, but this is our hotel's rule. Sorry to trouble you. All right. After that, Zhu Lingling hung up the phone and put on her clothes in annoyance. Buyuan, stay in your room. Don't go anywhere. Mom, where are you going? Gao Buyuan looked up at his mother. I'll go down to the hotel lobby to fill in some information. All right. After that, Zhu Lingling opened the door and left. After his mother left, Gao Buyuan immediately sent Little Bean a video call. Just as Little Bean picked up the video call, Gao Buyuan suddenly heard a scream from outside the door. Buan? Little Bean said. Little Bean, don't talk. I think I heard my mom's voice. Gao Buyuan felt that something was wrong and wanted to open the door to see what was going on. Then another voice came from outside the door. Let go of me, you bastard. Help! Gao Buyuan's heart sank. It was indeed his mother's voice. Little Bean, what should we do? Something happened to my mom outside the door? Buyuan, don't worry. Look through the peephole first. At her reminder, Gao Buyuan immediately put his cell phone on the ground and moved a small stool over. Then he stood on the stool with his feet up and looked through the peephole. After looking carefully, he was frightened. A man wearing a black mask and a black baseball cap was pulling his mother's hair and dragging her into the fire escape. There was no one in the hallway. Maybe someone in the next room heard it but couldn't tell. Gao Buyuan jumped down in fright and picked up his cell phone. Little Bean, a bad guy is beating my mom. What should I do? No, I have to save her. He was so anxious that he almost cried. When he jumped down, he sprained his ankle but didn't feel any pain. What? Andy Lingling ran into bad guys? On the other end of the video call, Little Bean was also dumbfounded. Chapter 39-49. Yes, just outside the door. Mom's hair. That guy kept pulling her. Gao Buyuan was still a kid and didn't speak clearly in a hurry. Little Bean was also anxious. At this moment, Pudding walked up behind Little Bean. Sis, look. What should we do? Auntie Lingling and Buyuan met a bad guy in the hotel. Let's go find Daddy and save them. Little Bean's hand trembled with fear as she held the cell phone. It's too late. They're too far away. Give me the cell phone. Pudding snatched the cell phone from Little Bean's hand and said to Gao Buyuan. Buyuan, don't worry. Listen to me. Find some matches right now. There should be some in the drawer. Then take a piece of paper and light it in the room. Be careful not to hurt yourself. There are smoke detectors in the hotel. As long as there's smoke, the alarm will automatically go off. Okay. I'll go right now. Gao Buyuan was calm and quick-witted. After hearing Pudding's words, he immediately got up and ran to the drawer. Then he took out the matches and paper and lit them with trembling hands. At that time, his mind was blank and he just did it mechanically. But to his surprise, it really worked. 1 minute later, the whole hotel sounded the fire alarm. At this moment, Zhu Lingling had been dragged to the entrance of the corridor by the man and was about to be dragged into the dark and narrow space. Hearing the alarm on the whole floor, the man seemed to be scared. He suddenly let go of Zhu Lingling and ran down the stairs. There was an obvious bruise on Zhu Lingling's neck. She coughed violently and limped back to the carpet in the corridor. At this moment, Gao Buyuan opened the door and rushed out. Someone come quickly, save me, save my mother. The hotel staff also arrived at this moment. They immediately called the police. Unexpectedly, Gao Buyuan was the first police officer to arrive. After receiving the location from his friend, he drove to the hotel. As soon as he entered, he heard the fire alarm. Then the whole hotel was in chaos. Of course, the culprit also took advantage of the chaos to escape. When Gao Ran picked up Zhu Lingling, she buried her head in his chest. She couldn't say a word, but she couldn't. After all, this was the first time she had experienced such a terrifying thing. She was scared silly. I'm sorry, honey. I came late and scared you. Gao Ran blamed himself and lowered his head to kiss Zhu Lingling's forehead. Then she carried him into the car and went to the hospital. Qin Chu and Huamin drove straight to the hospital. In the ward, she saw Zhu Lingling. It's already so late and I'm still troubling you? I'm so sorry. Zhu Lingling's voice was a little hoarse. Don't be so courteous with me. You're scaring us to death. Huamin reached out and held Zhu Lingling tightly. Your two little princesses are smart enough to order Buyuan to sound the fire alarm. Otherwise, I would be a corpse now. Ah. Bah, don't say such unlucky things. Those who survive a great disaster are bound to have good fortune in the future. Huomin comforted her. Pudding and Little Bean also came over and looked at Gao Buyuan, who was also frightened. Sitting on the sofa in the ward, his small body seemed to be still in a daze. Little Bean ran over and gave Gao Buyuan a bear hug. Buyuan, I'm glad you're okay. You're awesome. You did a good job. Only then did Gao Buyuan raise his head to look at Little Bean, feeling a little better. Little Bean. I was so scared, but after all he had been wronged, so his eyes were full of tears. Don't cry. I brought you donuts. Before Gao Buyuan's tears fell, Little Bean stuffed a donut in her hand into his mouth. Pudding couldn't bear to look at the scene and quickly turned her head. Auntie Lingling, did you see the bad guy's face? Pudding asked Zhu Lingling. Chapter 3950. No. He was wearing a black mask the whole time. I was panicking and didn't pay attention to it. Zhu Lingling shook her head, still in shock. I've checked the surveillance footage. I'll definitely find this scum and kill him. Damn it, how dare he bully my wife. Gao Ran was really angry. He didn't like the feeling of his wife being bullied by others. A five-star hotel shouldn't be so unsafe. Lingling, did someone follow you when you drove out? Huomin asked her. I didn't pay attention to that. Zhu Lingling was a housewife and wasn't very alert. Then, why did you suddenly open the door and go downstairs? The people downstairs told me that there was something wrong with my file and that I had to go downstairs to confirm it. Zhu Lingling tried to recall the situation. Is there something wrong with the hotel? Huomin was surprised. Gao Ran hurriedly said, No. I've checked. The hotel staff didn't call Lingling. I think the suspect pretended to be a hotel employee and called to lure Lingling out. Then we should be glad that he didn't pretend to be a hotel employee to break into the room. After all, Buyuan was still in the room. Huomin was a little scared at the thought of it. Yeah. Fortunately, my son is fine. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to live. At this point, Zhu Lingling's tears were still dripping down. This incident is weird. I don't think it's a sudden incident. Qin Chu didn't speak for a long time, thinking about the cause and effect of this incident. Anyway, I'll catch that guy. At this moment, Gao Ran's cell phone rang. He turned around and went out to answer the call. Huomin walked to the bedside and chatted with Zhu Lingling for a while. Before leaving, Qin Chu asked Gao Ran about the hotel's surveillance footage. Gao Ran said that the hotel did record it. But the figure was too blurry and wearing a hat and mask at night. It was useless. They couldn't catch him with these. On the way home, Huomin thought carefully about his conversation with Zhu Lingling and then told Qin Chu. Honey, we must find the guy who did this to Lingling. Gao Ran and I are looking for him. Gao Ran's method, but I don't think he'll find anything. You can send someone to investigate Chen Yuning. Do you think she has something to do with this incident? Qin Chu was surprised. For some reason, Huomian suddenly mentioned Chen Yuning. I just asked Lingling about what happened tonight. The only thing I think is connected is that Gao Ran went to a dinner party with Chen Yuning and other colleagues. Then Lingling got provoked by the photo and lost her temper with Gao Ran. Then Gao Ran went home and Lingling ran away from home. I don't think it's a coincidence that Lingling was targeted as soon as she checked into the hotel. Logically speaking, Lingling didn't drive a luxurious car and didn't wear many brands. How could she be targeted? So you suspect that woman has something to do with all this? Yes, honey. Start with her. Investigate carefully. I want to catch the person who hurt Lingling. Huomian's expression was calm as she spoke. But in fact she was in a state of shock. Lingling was her closest friend, and now she was almost hurt. There were deep strangulation marks on her neck and bruises on her wrists. She couldn't take it lying down. How crazy must the person be to hurt the mother and son? Okay, leave it to me. Qin Chu knew his wife's analysis was always reasonable, so he nodded in agreement. Chapter 3951. The next morning. Huomin and Qin Chu left together in the car, but they didn't go to the company. Instead they went back to Southside. When the people at Southside saw Huomin they were very excited. Vice Director. Ah, Vice Director is back. Vice Director, you're about to give birth, right? Where are you giving birth? Come back to Southside, okay? Everyone misses you. As soon as Huomin returned, she was surrounded by doctors and nurses. The bodyguards behind her stared at her nervously, afraid that something would happen to a young lady. I'm back to do something. Everyone go ahead. Don't worry about me. Huamin smiled and walked towards the DNA testing center. She didn't trust anyone else to do such an important thing. She was afraid that she would miss something. Therefore Huamin did it herself. She took Jixin's hair and Uncle Jing's hair and carefully did a DNA comparison. When the results came out, she was dumbfounded. Huamin looked at the results with trembling hands. How is this possible? How is this possible? Vice Director, is there anything I can help you with? The appraiser behind her walked over. Help me take a look at the results. Huamin really hoped that she was wrong. The man picked it up and looked at it. He smiled and said, the results are obvious. These two are father and son. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Huamin originally thought that after she got the results, she would be able to expose Uncle Jing's identity at any time. She wanted Jixin and her mother to wake up, but now, the results were different from what she had imagined. Huamin was greatly shocked. Perhaps because she was frightened, she rushed to the bathroom and vomited. Vice Director, are you okay? The assistant nurse was so scared that she kept patting her back. I'm fine. It's a normal pregnancy reaction. You guys go ahead. Vice Director, the obstetrics and gynecology department asked me to ask you if you need to arrange a prenatal checkup. Huamin felt very uncomfortable after vomiting. He waved his hand to show that he didn't want to go. Even when she left Southside, she was still in a daze. Huamin took the test report and went to the company immediately. Madam. Assistant Yang was very happy to see Huamin every day. Where's my husband? President Qin is in a meeting. Do you need me to call him? No need. Let's wait until he's done. Huamin sat on the sofa with a heavy heart. She wasn't even in the mood to drink the warm milk that Yang had prepared for her. When Qin Chu finished his work and came out, he saw Huamin looking a little pale. Honey, are the results out yet? Huamin didn't say anything. Instead, he took out the report with a complicated expression and handed it to Qin Chu. Mr. Qin had studied medicine for many years, so he naturally understood these simple tests. What? They were father and son? How is that possible? Qin Chu was also shocked. Yahaha. How ridiculous. Back then, I can guarantee that Uncle Jing was completely dead. His body was badly damaged. When we went to the funeral parlor, we even said goodbye to his body. I'll never forget that scene for the rest of my life. Hubby, how can a dead person come back to life? Isn't it ridiculous? Should we go to the North Mountain Cemetery and see what's inside? No. Uncle Jing has already passed away and should be resting in peace. We can't disturb him because of the conspiracy of the living. Qin Chu wanted to open the coffin and examine the body. Although it had rotted over the years, the bones were still there. Huamin firmly disagreed. She knew that there was no need to open the coffin. Uncle Jing must be dead. That was the truth. Mian, what do you think now? Qin Chu knew that Huamin had always been quick-witted. He didn't know how she understood such a ridiculous thing. Chapter 3952. I think, maybe Uncle Jing really has a twin brother? That's not impossible. I'll send someone to investigate Uncle Jing's background. Don't worry. Honey, there's been a lot of trouble recently. I've been feeling uneasy, as if something bad is about to happen. Huamin leaned her head on Qin Chu's shoulder tiredly. Don't think too much. I'm here for you. Qin Chu kissed her long hair and comforted her. Suddenly, Huamin screamed. Qin Chu was scared out of his wits. He hugged her tightly. Honey, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Your son is moving? Huamin had gotten used to the fetal movement in the past few months, but this was the first time she felt such a big movement. It felt as if there was a force in her stomach that was fiercely affecting her entire body. I wanted to say, Mommy, don't be afraid. I'm here for you. Mr. Qin mimicked his son's tone and teased Huamin. Finally, she wasn't so nervous anymore and smiled in relief. Could it be that this brat is also a bootlicker like his second sister? It's hard to say. Qin Chu's lips curled up slightly. Then our family is going to be lively. Mian, I've made an appointment with a designer. He'll come over later to draw for you. You should order a few outfits for our wedding. Otherwise, you won't have time when you give birth and are in confinement. Qin Chu actually wanted to distract Huamin so that she wouldn't be so nervous. Well, that's good too. I'll meet her later. This trick was indeed useful. The wedding was something that both of them were looking forward to. They had been married for a few years and almost had 3 children. However, they had always lacked a grand wedding. Back then, Huamin insisted on keeping their marriage a secret, which wronged Mr. Qin. Now it was finally time to clear Mr. Qin's name. As for the wedding date, the two of them planned to wait until Huamin was out of confinement. However, some of the details of the wedding and the custom-made items had to be prepared in advance. Huamin had originally planned to use the things he had ordered 3 years ago. However, Qinchu refused. He said that it was outdated and that she would feel wronged. Just like that, the two of them continued to research in secret without telling anyone. Qinning knew about it by accident, so she mentioned it that day and made Suyu sad for a long time. It was true that some people were happy while others were sad. House of Sicily Cece's parents were very happy to see their daughter back. They cooked delicious food for their daughter every day. Rick, on the other hand, had something to do and was about to leave. Go and do your work. Leave Cece to us, Cece's father said in the tone of an elder. Rick, on the other hand, was even more serious as he bowed to the two elders. Then I'll leave Cece in your care. Cece snickered. She had known him for a long time, but this was the first time she had seen him so well behaved. Sure enough, he had improved after becoming a husband and father. Be a good girl at home and take care of the baby, Rick reminded Cece worriedly. Then when will you be back? No more than a week. A week? That's a long time. Then you have to call me every day, Cece said coquettishly. Okay. You have to bring gifts for me and the baby when you come back. Okay. Then can you leave me some pocket money before you leave? I can't always eat my parents' food, right? Cece was joking on purpose. She didn't want Rick to leave, so she deliberately tried to find something to talk about and didn't want him to leave. Unexpectedly, Rick took out a black gold card from his pocket and put it in her hand. Then he said 3 words in a domineering tone. Chapter 39:53. Spend as much as you want. Cece knew that Rick was the kind of person who would give away his cards at the slightest disagreement. Back in the States, Rick often gave Cece a bunch of cards. But in a foreign country, Cece wasn't used to being surrounded by people every time she went out. Over time, Cece became too lazy to go out and became a homebody. Now that they were back in China, Mr. Rick was still the same. This made Cece's heart melt. Honey, do you have any other tricks? Rick tilted his head and thought for a moment. Then I'll leave you another one. If you suddenly want to buy a house or something, 5 million yuan might not be enough. Then Rick took out a shiny blue card and put it in Cece's hand. There's 5 million yuan there and 10 million yuan here. Use it first. I'll be back in a week. If it's not enough, borrow it from Qinchu. I'll pay you back when I come back. Then Rick turned Cece's head, kissed her and turned to leave. The 3 people in Cece's family were dumbfounded. Cece's mom. What did my son-in-law just say? Cece's dad. I don't think I heard him clearly. Cece. 5 minutes later, Cece took a picture of the 2 cards and posted it on her WeChat friend circle. Mr. Rick is going on a business trip for a week. He was afraid that I wouldn't have enough, so he left 2 cards. Jixin, that's a great way to torture single people. Huamin, yeah, that's like Rick's style. Nielingxian, sis, you're home? Are mom and dad okay? The rest of the comments were made by Cece's own friends. Of course, everyone was envious and jealous of Cece. Rick was the kind of person who didn't say anything, but he would act immediately. He was in a hurry to leave because he wanted to see Lu Yen. With Qinchu's recommendation, Lu Yen had agreed to do Rick a favor and accept his job. That psycho Kaslias was afraid of nothing but Lu Yen. What was Lu Yen afraid of? She agreed easily. Lu Yen was afraid of her sister. Yes, Lu Yen was most afraid of her sister being sad or in danger. After having her sister, she felt like her sister was the best sister in the world and no one could compare to her. Evening, Qinchu was about to get off work when he received a call. Then he said a few words and hung up. Honey, ask the bodyguard and driver to send you home later. What about you? Huamin looked at him. I still have some things to do. I'll go with you. Mian? Qinchu didn't know what to say. You must have caught the person who attacked Lingling, right? Sure enough, they were husband and wife. Their tacit understanding was really high. Knowing that he couldn't hide it from Huamin, Qinchu nodded. Yes, I just caught it. Where is he? In an abandoned factory in the middle of nowhere. I'll go with you. Honey? I'm going there for an interrogation. There might be some violent scenes. Qinchu was worried that Huamin, who was pregnant, wouldn't be able to take it. Hubby, let me tell you something. I'm a doctor. I'm not even afraid of dead bodies and dissections. Why would I be afraid of bloody scenes? All right. In the end, Mr. Qin couldn't win against Huamin. He nodded and took her to the middle of nowhere. In an abandoned factory, Huamin saw the man. Qinchu's subordinates were indeed fast. It had only been a day, but they had already caught the man. The man looked very young and was wearing a pair of jeans. There was a black jacket on top of it. It was the kind of jacket of an inferior brand. At first glance, one could tell that it was the kind sold at a stall for 100 yuan. It was obvious that he was not a rich person. His appearance was also very ordinary. His small eyes were slightly swollen and his face looked cold. When they caught him, he was still wearing a baseball cap. It was a brand that was very popular recently. It was the favorite style of a certain Korean male star. When Huamin and Qin walked in, the man slowly raised his head. Chapter 39:54. Qin first pulled a chair over, then took out a white handkerchief and laid it out. After letting Huamin sit down, he looked at the man and said, "Zhang Lingji, right? Who are you?" "You should know why we caught you," Qin said. "I don't know. Do you know that this is kidnapping?" "It's against the law," the man shouted. "Hey kid, don't talk to me about breaking the law. If we're talking about breaking the law, what you did last night was more serious." "I don't know what you're talking about." Hearing Qin words, the man lowered his head and closed his eyes, pretending not to know. "Tell me who told you to do this. Do you know who you were dragging yesterday?" Qin said slowly. The kid actually didn't say anything. Huamin suddenly stood up. Qin reached out to stop her, but she said in a low voice, "Hubby, I know what I'm doing." With that, Huamin walked over. The man was tied to the chair and couldn't move his limbs. He probably didn't pose much of a threat to Huamin. "You should know that the person last night is the wife of the city police chief, right?" Huamin asked him. The kid still refused to say anything. It seemed like he was going to play dead until the end. "Then do you know why she told you to do that?" "She probably didn't tell you that she coveted someone else's husband and was jealous of their good relationship. She probably didn't tell you that she was a shameless mistress." "No, she can't be considered a mistress because the man of the house doesn't even care about her. I can only say that she's a schemer who can't see the light of day." "You're lying." "She's not." Perhaps he couldn't take it anymore after hearing Huamin's provocation. So he still opened his mouth. Qin shook his head helplessly and smiled. Even if his wife was pregnant, it didn't affect her brain. She could still force the kid to admit it with one sentence. She's not? Then why were you turned into a kidnapper?" "She didn't use me. She did it willingly. That woman isn't a good person. She always makes things difficult for me." He almost blurted out the name. Only then did the man realize that he had almost been fooled. She raised her head and spat at Huamian fiercely. "Bah! You so-called upper-class people are all filthy to the extreme. Every one of you who dies is one less." She could tell that this man hated the rich. After Huamin was spat out, Qin was furious and directly made a hand gesture. The two thugs behind him punched and kicked the man. Huamin did not stop him. People like him needed to suffer a little. Huamin took the tissue from Qin and wiped off the saliva on his body. Then she turned back to stare at him and said, "You like her, don't you? You're so smitten by her that you believe everything she says." "Shut up. Shut up." The man refused to admit it, but he was very agitated. "I also want to know why you're so smitten by Qin Yuning. Why are you risking your life for her?" Huamin knew that with Qin Yuning's wealth, she didn't have the money to hire gangsters. She could only rely on her beauty and cleverness to make use of the big idiots who pursued her and had a crush on her. Needless to say, this Zhang Lingji must be one of them. Seems you admit it. Qin Yuning is a vicious woman. I underestimated her. She's really capable." Huamin regretted that he had underestimated her and didn't remind Lingling of her safety. He almost fell into her trap. Chapter 39:55. Don't talk about Yuning like that. She's the victim. Zhu Lingling's the bitch. She wondered how Qin Yuning told this cannon fodder that she was the victim. She described Zhu Lingling as a woman who committed all kinds of evil deeds, which aroused the hatred of men. With a few words, Huamin successfully made the man talk about Qin Yuning. He had to admit that, however, he had just called Zhu Lingling a bitch. Huamin didn't like the words. She slapped him in the face with a backhand and her hand went numb. It was obvious how hard she had slapped him. The man froze when he was slapped, not expecting the pregnant woman to hit him. "You bullied my best friend. You'll end up in a miserable state." Huamin curled his lips coldly. "Honey," Huamin walked to Qin side. "I'll keep him alive. I won't kill him." Qin thought Huamin told him to show mercy. After all, she was pregnant and needed to accumulate good karma for the baby. But Huamin said, "Keep him away from me." Don't let me see him again. With his IQ, he'll be trouble for us in the future. After experiencing so many things, Huamin had figured out one thing. Just like Jian Tong and Mo Shui, and Song Yisher. He showed mercy to them, but they didn't appreciate it. In turn, they almost got his family into trouble. So, Huamin decided that he wouldn't be soft-hearted anymore. Take him away tonight. Send him to the Thai smuggler and sell him to Africa. Qin Chu glanced at the man. Since he had found out that he was related to Chen Yuning, he wouldn't let him go. It was impossible for him to let him go. Letting him go would be a disaster. The man was dragged away by Qin Chu's subordinates. Sitting in the car, Qin Chu glanced at Huamin. Honey, what should we do with that woman? Leave it to me. This time, Huamin wanted to stand up for her best friend. Clean up the house. Clean up those bitches who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. All right. Qin Chu knew that Huamin always had a sense of propriety, so he didn't need to explain too much. From Zhang Lingji's tone, Huamin knew that Chen Yuning instigated Zhang Lingji to follow and kidnap Zhu Lingling. They didn't plan to keep her alive. Chen Yuning had just graduated from college and was only 25 years old. He was so young, but his heart was so vicious. It was true that one could not judge a book by its cover. The next morning, Huamin went to see Chen Yuning in her family's rice noodle shop. It was a weekend. Chen Yuning didn't go to work and helped out at home. Seeing Huamin come, the two elders were still very polite, because they recognized him as the person who came to deliver the things. Chen Yuning, on the other hand, looked uneasy. She had been calling Zhang Lingji since last night but couldn't get through. She was afraid that he would be arrested and interrogated by the police. Mrs. Qin, seeing Huamin come to eat rice noodle, Chen Yuning said coldly, "Good." Chapter 3956. Huamin, don't slander me. You know very well whether I'm slandering you or not. I can show you the evidence at any time. The photos you secretly took, the people who followed Zhu Lingling. By the way, don't you wonder where your good pawn Zhang Lingji is? At the mention of Zhang Lingji, Chen Yuning's face darkened. What? You don't dare to admit it? Don't you want to hear what he said to me? Seeing Chen Yuning's darkened face, Huamin was delighted. 3 seconds. Yes, it only took him 3 seconds. Chen Yuning smiled slightly. Mrs. Qin, I'm afraid you're mistaken. I don't know this Zhang Lingji you're talking about. You don't admit it? You're a policewoman with strong anti-reconnaissance skills. But since you're a policewoman, you must have left some evidence, right? Mrs. Qin, you'd better find the evidence and confront me with it. Chen Yuning seemed to be arrogant. Yes, she was thoughtful enough to stay calm and not be scared out of her wits by Huamin's words. Instead, her words and attitude were full of provocation. It seems you won't admit it and don't think you're wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I admit it? It's funny. Then Chen Yuning turned to wipe the table and ignored Huamin. She seemed to have thought about it. If Huamian said something to her parents, she would have a way to explain and turn the situation around. She might have already found an excuse. Unfortunately, Huamin didn't say anything in the end and left with his men. Chen Yuning was smug, thinking that even someone as smart as Huamin couldn't do anything to her. But she was wrong. In fact, Huamin didn't come to her to denounce her. He just wanted to test her attitude. If her attitude was sincere enough and she still had a heart of remorse, he would still be lenient and go easy on her. But now, without a doubt, she was so ruthless at such a young age that she could even abandon a pawn she used. If this woman was kept alive, it would be a disaster. After getting into the car, Huamin did not call Qin Chu. This was because she subconsciously felt that her husband was an entrepreneur after all. It would be bad if his subordinates were negligent and left any evidence that could be used against him. So this time she called Xiao Fei. Yes, Huamin had called Xiao Fei. A long time ago, when Xiao Fei and Lu Yen came here, Huamin asked for her number in private. Because Xiao Fei kept a low profile, not many people paid attention to him internationally. Therefore, calling Xiao Fei was much safer than calling Lu Yen. When Xiao Fei received the call, he thought he was sleepwalking. Is this a domestic number? He picked it up curiously. Hello. Fei. It was the first time Huamin had called Xiao Fei, so he didn't know what to say. Sister Mian? Xiao Fei wasn't sure. It's me. Xiao Fei was speechless again. He glanced at Lu Yen, who was not far away. Lu Yen was using her laptop to access her online bank account when she heard the name, Sister Mian. She immediately put down her work and looked over. She didn't seem to believe that her sister was calling Xiao Fei. Xiao Fei, I have something that I need your help with. I know that you have subordinates in the country. No problem. Just tell me what to do, Xiao Fei agreed without hesitation. Don't tell Yan. I don't want her to be distracted. Huamin reminded him. Chapter 3957. Sis, why didn't you tell me? The domineering Lu Yen had dashed over and snatched the phone from his hand. Huamin, sis, what's up? Yeah, you're here too. Of course. I'm with Psycho Qiao 24/7. Then she realized her words were too explicit, so she hurried to explain. Psycho Qiao has been eating and drinking at my place all day and won't leave. Qiao Fei only smiled faintly and didn't speak. Huamin's tone turned doting. I knew you'd make a big deal out of it with your short temper, so I wanted to say hello to Fei. I'll take care of his business. Sis, don't waste my time. What's up? It was rare for her sister to take care of something, so Lu Yen rubbed her hands, looking forward to doing something big for her sister. It's nothing. There's someone I don't want to see. But you know I'm pregnant and don't want to kill her. You want to make her beg for death, right? Lu Yen understood in 1 second. Huamin, I just want her to leave and stop harassing my friends. It was indeed Huamin's wish. After Qin Yuning was transferred away, she still had feelings for Gao Ran. Not only that, she even dared to lay hands on Lingling. He didn't dare to imagine what would happen if something really happened that day. So, Huamin hated Qin Yuning, or else he wouldn't have called Xiao Fei. Got it. Just give me her name. Just her name? Her company, her home address, and her picture. Before Huamin could finish, Lu Yen smiled. I don't need those. She's in the same city as you, right? Just tell me the name. What if she has the same name? Don't get the wrong person. Huamin was still worried. Sis, I'm a top-notch mercenary. I'm at the level of a super agent. I'm not a good-for-nothing like you think I am. People are willing to pay hundreds of millions to hire me. I'm not here to play hide-and-seek. Lu Yen thought her sister's worries were unnecessary. Yes, Lu Yan's supercomputer was so powerful that all she had to do was type in a name and locate the city she was in, and all her information would pop up. Even if they had the same name, Lu Yen had ways to filter them out in a minute. Okay. Her name is Qin Yuning. Okay. Yen, don't kill her. Just make sure she can't come back and do evil. I know. Sis, it's a piece of cake. After hanging up, Lu Yen went back to her computer and forgot about the transfer. He directly checked Qin Yuning's information. This woman looks coquettish. No wonder such a gentle person like my sister can't tolerate her. Lu Yen glanced at Xiao Fei. Sis told me not to kill him. Do you have any good ideas? Sell her to Africa. Xiao Fei didn't even think about it. No. Africa is boring. It's too peaceful. I'll send her to the Golden Triangle. You want to send her to the Golden Triangle? Xiao Fei glanced at her. Yeah. It's so exciting. What if she dies? If she dies, it's not my fault. My sister told me to get rid of her and I didn't kill her. But I'm not obligated to protect her, right? Lu Yen was, after all, a vicious gangster. She dared to do what her sister didn't dare to do. It was said that the men in the Golden Triangle didn't have a tomorrow, but the women in the Golden Triangle didn't even have a day today. It was a hell on earth where poppies, pornography, and slaughter were all mixed together. Lu Yen issued an order in the headquarters. Her subordinates in Yunnan immediately carried out the order. In less than 12 hours, Qin Yuning disappeared mysteriously. Hearing the news from Gao Ran on the phone, Qin Chu glanced at Huamin, who was reading a newspaper on the couch. Honey, did you do this to Qin Yuning? Qin Chu thought Huamin had gotten rid of the bitch quietly. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.